I'd like to gavel in our regularly scheduled meeting for August 20th, 2012. If you'd all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Actually, if we could make that correction on the agenda, it says July 16th instead of... I got there. Okay, I still got the other one. Sorry about that. Okay. Again, I apologize for the delay. For the record, it is about 6:15. We're starting about 15 minutes late tonight. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Here.
Alderwoman Manister.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderman Toohey.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderman Robertson.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Harper. And Mayor Kelly.
Here. Next item, approval of the agenda for the regular Board of Alderman meeting for August 20th, 2012. Alderwoman Saunders.
I ask that we remove the healthcare ordinance, the approval of the to end the healthcare benefits ordinance 5696 from the agenda. Should have gone to Ways and Means first.
Okay. Do we have a second for that?
I second.
Okay. Discussion. First of all, I would, just like to bring attention to the board that the issue of whether this the health care benefit should have been eliminated through an ordinance or by just a regular motion was brought to the attention of the city attorney, who, after doing some research, believes that it is an area that is maybe a little bit gray, but in order to be thorough, that he recommended that we draft an ordinance for the elimination of the health care benefits. And so that's why it's on the agenda. And so I would open that up to discussion, but that's why it was placed on the agenda. In order for it to go forward, we would need a sponsor. Somebody, I would have to ask one of the aldermen to sponsor the bill. But it is something that the vote that we have in place now takes effect the end of this month. And so, again, in order to make sure we're doing it in a timely manner, that's why I asked him to have it on the agenda for today. So I will open up for discussion. Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes, this was brought forward by Alderman Kramer. He mentioned it to me at the August 2nd Ways and Means meeting, and we didn't see it till Friday. He mentioned it to City Attorney Frank Albrecht. If I ask for Frank to check into something for me, I've been informed by email that I need direction. You need direction from the board. I need to receive direction in the board. I've never seen where this was adopted by ordinance, so we can't end it by ordinance. A motion is perfectly fine. At most, since you said you were employees and you adopted it through the budget, we would have to amend the budget. So this needs, one, it needs to go back to Ways and Means where it was initiated, and two, and then we'll have the discussion.
Okay. Again, I think that the concern was, in order to proceed with what the direction of the board was, which was to eliminate the benefit, I think maybe the circumstances are different between what you asked the city attorney to do, and this is trying to ratify action that the board has already taken. And again, I would rather err on, being overly protective than err on not being, again, which is why the ordinance is on there. So I don't think it's, I don't want to split hairs on directing the city attorney, but again, it may have been brought to his attention on August 2nd. I don't know if that's a date or not, but it did take time to do some research, and he didn't talk to me until he had his final decision or his recommendation as our city attorney until last Wednesday. I would agree with you, which was my argument, that I believe that when this was implemented, it was done at the committee level, was not passed by ordinance, and therefore I agree that I would think that it could be done again by a motion and then removed as a benefit. I also believe that you can remove things from the budget by a motion without amending the budget. You can't add to the budget, but you can definitely take things away without having to go through and change the budget. But after the city attorney did his research, he believed he would rather, it was better to err on the side of being more cautious. So, Alderwoman Saunders.
We went to an outside attorney on the opinion as far as how these, the legality of these health care benefits, And I would like the opinion. I still have questions unanswered on that from that particular attorney. And so once again, this wasn't done via ordinance, so there's absolutely no authority to go ahead and end it via ordinance. And also, it's still being looked into whether the benefits were ever properly authorized. And so as a result of that, I don't feel like we can take any action. We've gotten an email from Bolo regarding this. So,
Okay. Frank, do you want to comment, or?
Many of the issues I'd have to discuss, I really think would have to be discussed in an executive session because they are legal matters and could involve a number of things. I would like to address this, Maureen. I have the only time I indicated to you that I needed direction from the board was when I was asked to take an affirmative action on behalf of the city and requesting an opinion from the Attorney General. I have never refused a telephone call from any alderman. If you have legal questions, I am happy to answer them. This was presented to me as a concern for the first time, I believe about a week after the last meeting, and it was something that I felt warranted checking into. Again, it is a gray area. There is no clear defining line. In an abundance of caution, I think it is best for the city that it be accomplished by ordinance.
Okay.
I'm fine if we need to discuss it in an executive session, and I will go back through my emails, city attorney, and make sure that if I was incorrect, I'll make sure I bring that forward. I know I've asked about the blackmail charge. It was made in a public statement, and I've not gotten a response.
Again, that's something I think would be best discussed in an executive session.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes, Your Honor. Regarding this topic, I just wanted to clarify from my point of view that my communication with our city attorney was an expression of concern. That concern came about after some publication of the previous vote on this topic. I was contacted by more than one attorney who has a level of experience that seems to be beyond reproach on this topic. However, I provided some case law and some information to our attorney and mentioned to him that I was concerned. I did not ask him to do anything, but merely presented the information. And I don't see the reason for not wanting to put a protective in place regarding this issue. Without an ordinance, I believe and have been informed by other legal counsel that this could leave the city exposed. I presented this information, and I don't see where there is a harm in having this vote take place to put it into ordinance form rather than just to leave it up to a regular motion. But I just wanted to be clear. I mentioned it as a concern to our city attorney. There was no insistence or any other, item that was a compulsion item for our city attorney to act in my behalf.
Okay. Any other discussion? Alderwoman Saunders?
May I ask, what is the liability that
Again, I think that's a matter that should be discussed in the executive session.
then I move we'll discuss it then in executive session?
Okay.
We already have a motion on the
Well,
floor.
we have a first and a second on
Okay.
the floor for removing the bill, send it back to Ways and Means. Roll
Well-
call, please. I'll call for the question.
Well,
Roll call.
First of all, no. I think that's at least allows us time to have adequate research, so I still want the motion, I still want the ordinance taken off, and then if we want to discuss it in legal session, so, yes. Or I guess I have to wait for roll call.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Abstain.
Alderman Tui.
No.
Alderman Kramer.
No.
Alderman Robertson.
No.
Alderman Nguyen.
No.
All right. In order for the bill to move forward, when we get to that on the agenda, we will have to have a sponsor for it.
We need to move it to executive session, though. I make a motion that we move it to executive session.
Okay. We can do that when we get to the agenda. Okay.
It doesn't have to be done on the agenda?
I mean, if you don't mind, we'll just do it then. That's fine. I
Okay,
understand.
and then I have one other question with approval of the agenda. Why are the minutes under the committee meetings?
I think those are committee minutes, or?
Aren't we supposed to discuss the community center at the beginning of this?
Yeah, well, we're trying to approve the agenda for tonight. Are you talking about the minutes from the committee
Under
meetings?
the committee meetings, why are they
number
under there?
12. I don't know. The minutes? I don't know.
They're listed under there.
What was the question?
Why are the minutes
Why are
under
they
the
listed?
committee report?
Several city administrator reports ago, the suggestion was made that the committee meetings will be presented at this type of meeting for formal acceptance, even though the different committees have accepted it. And I heard nothing back, so we put it on the agenda.
I would assume, one, that it would be a topic of discussion, not under actual committees. And since it was, I remembered it being
But
brought
they've been
forward.
approved by the individual committees. We're just formally bringing it forward.
So we wouldn't vote on it, we're just
You all
listing it
have-
under the committee report.
Right.
Right.
Normally, in the past, we haven't had the minutes from committee meetings brought forward to the Board of Alderman. But again, I think that was suggested at one of our other meetings, or at least talked about. Usually, the the committee's chairman would just give an update or submit a written report from their meetings, and that would just be entered into the record. We never voted on it. It was just put in there. And so, and we can do it either way. I think it's duplication to have the minutes put in the agenda for the Board of Aldermen, but we can discuss that too, so. Okay. Is there any other discussion on do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
And second.
I'll second, Your Honor.
Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Toohey.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item is discussion of the community center, and I will actually, Keith, put Alderman Robertson, put you on the spot. I think maybe after your last public safety or public works meeting, you would maybe like to give us some direction.
Direction or just
What
some
you was
information?
decided at
Okay.
public works?
Well, we discussed, we didn't decide necessarily, but we discussed the possibility of combining the functions of City Hall into the rec center, the desirability of that, and the way to determine that. And so we decided that would be a good idea to try and approach the public, perhaps with a simple, very simple survey, just as to the, up, down, yes, no, do you want to do that? And so we're waiting to put that together and formulate that before we really proceed any further.
Okay. Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes, as we got into talking about the survey, we decided we needed a consultant, and Bola was going to check into that. She'd said she had a friend. In retrospect, thinking about that, I think we definitely need to, in order of the appearance of bias, we need to either solicit bids for that or go back to Canon, since they were the initial surveyors, and probably that's a good link as far as using them.
We have come up with a list of about 5 or 6 names of consultants who do this for a living. And I think the motion was to direct staff to hire professional services to conduct another survey. What I would think the committee is looking for tonight is a formal motion by the board approving that action,
Right.
so that we can go forward.
Right. That would have to be approved by the Board of Aldermen.
Right.
I assume that we would, do we have funds, or would we have to amend the agenda, the budget?
We would definitely have to amend the budget for that.
Okay. And is there been any discussion about how much that survey would be, or?
I think the preliminary cost is like $10,000-$12,000, but if we limit the number of questions, it could be less than that.
Excuse me, we're talking about 3 or 4 questions.
Yeah,
3 or 4 questions.
Simple postcard.
Not a 3-page survey.
what
Okay.
This is not a repeat of the recreation needs survey. This is completely different. This is several distinct questions about the advisability of combining these functions, City Hall into the rec center. Do we want the ice? Just very simple, clear-cut questions. However, I felt that it was good, and the committee agreed that we have somebody professional write this, so we don't, tip our hand or bias it in one way or another.
Okay. Alderwoman Manser?
Manser?
No. Andy was looking at me, too. I didn't
Okay.
look.
And I was under the impression, too, that the company was going to come and visit the Public Works Committee once again, so we could kind of sit down with them and help to develop the questions
Right.
to make sure we had,
Oh, yeah.
what we
I
wanted
think
to say
what we
on
would
the-
look for is feedback in terms of, or guidance in terms of coming up with those questions, not necessarily the board helping them come up with those questions.
Well, just so
Public
we
Works, not the
could
board.
guide the company that we're going to be working with.
We'll be bringing that person back once they respond.
Yeah, once we solicit the bids and have the contract in place and
Right.
that's approved, then
Right.
that organization would then meet with Public Works.
Absolutely.
Okay, just wanted to verify that.
Alderman Lay, did you?
Yeah, I proposed doing this, and my costing put us at 600 and something dollars. Now we're looking at 10 to 12,000, and I'm going.
That was the preliminary cost that we were given when we
Yeah.
asked the question before you came back with your 650.
Yeah, and mine included $300 for printing and $350 so that you could turn around and do the postage for a postcard. I'm surprised that all of a sudden we've grown that high in expense, and I'd really like not to have to go that high.
That figure never changed from the first time I mentioned it at Public Works Committee. I haven't gone back and asked
Okay.
what the cost would be if we went forward with the 3 questions that you brought forward, nor was there consensus on the committee that those questions are the ones to be asked.
Alderman Saunders?
Yeah, when Alderman Lay started phrasing the questions, then it started becoming, well, wait a minute, that's leading, and that's how then the conversation that we didn't want the bias, because although it's ideally like the same, if you go back to my minutes, and although Alderman Robertson seems to think that I've been asking for a full blowout survey, which I haven't, if you go back to the very first meetings, there's a simple sentence saying that I just wanted a simple survey, just follow up to bridge the gap. So it did grow to that. Do you know what I mean? Because when you started phrasing the questions, everyone was like, well, wait a minute, that's kind of leading. And then Alderman Robertson threw in the fact that we would possibly be selling City Hall. And Andy, you've championed that we had to look at both buildings together and that the costs were not accurate. So I was shocked when you wanted to go with the survey, but much pleased. But
I'm sorry, Alderman Lay?
If I may, I'll present to the board what I presented to the Public Works Committee. The 3 questions that I thought would be reasonable to start with. Should the ice skating rink remain a part of the rec center facility? Yes or no? Should the city add a fitness center to the rec center? Yes or no? Should the city look to incorporate the rec center and the city hall into one building? Yes or no? That's how I came up with a simple, let's just find and let the residents tell us. Because anything you go towards in remodeling, they're going to ask you, what are you going to put in the building? And we've discussed the fitness center. We've discussed putting City Hall in there. We've discussed keeping them separate buildings. I think it's time to let the citizens chime in. The postcard suggestion that I'm throwing out is the fact that it goes to each one of the residential homes. They fill it out, drop it back off at City Hall or the rec center itself. The canceled stamp verifies it's a valid vote. We simply total it up. How hard is it to get the residents to chime in? And I don't think it's justifiable to go to 10, 12,000. I think we can do it for cheaper. Unless I'm missing something in the 3 questions. Now, if others have other questions they would like to ask.
Alderman Saunders?
and that's when we got to, okay, the fitness center. How do we justify? We've just said that with the competition of the Heights and the YMCA, we can't justify that. And then we got into that question. And in the minutes, you're always saying, how does that impact? Do we take the Heights agreement away? So we decided it got to be a little bit more involved. And then it wasn't so much about a fitness center as it was a gymnasium, having a gym where kids could shoot hoops and basketball because that came a need. And that's kind of where we decided it's a little more involved than we thought. Questions could be leading. You could steer them if you only gave them those options. And so that we maybe needed a consultant. I don't know if we have to spend that much, but again, you know what I mean? We need to, all along, all of the charge has been that we cannot have the fitness center. We don't need it because of the competition from the Heights and the YMCA. And that, how would it impact the Heights agreement that we have? So,
Your Honor, may
Alderman Robertson?
I need to refute that statement, Maureen, because that's never been the case. I've never agreed with that. That was not the direction of Public Works or any of the rec center studies that we didn't need a fitness center or that we couldn't support it. That is absolutely untrue. It's absolutely untrue, and that is a core function of what we're talking about doing. So
I have to-
we need to make that clear.
Alderwoman Mansfield.
Well, I just want to, well, my understanding was when we talked about it at the Public Works, I asked if, when you say gym, do you mean a gym with treadmills and equipment and elliptical machines, or a gymnasium? And you said
Both.
that it was a gymnasium.
Both. No, a gym is a gymnasium.
Well,
A
I
fitness
meant-
center is a fitness center. They're not the same thing. We're talking about both.
That's what you wanted. Okay, I was under the
That's not
impression that we were
necessarily
trying to
what I
clarify, because
Yeah.
a gymnasium I think would be great, because I think Alderman Kramer had mentioned that would also work as a fallout shelter if we ever needed, an emergency shelter. We'd have another gymnasium. And I thought I wanted to clarify if you were talking gym as in gymnasium or gym as in fitness center. And we did also talked about not having a full-blown gym or fitness center, but having maybe a treadmill or two in a smaller room where you could utilize a personal trainer, in classes. And I was under the impression that we were on the same page.
No. The work of the Public Works Committee that we led to last year with the recommendation that we didn't bring to the full board was for a fitness center, which would replace the meeting rooms primarily, build a gymnasium, make the building more coherent, create more of a combination of things and a flow
Okay,
that
well,
would allow
I'm
a town
unclear,
center.
because if we do a full-blown gymnasium and a full-blown fitness center, how then would we incorporate the entire city hall and the library, and everything over in public, or at the rec center? I mean, how in the world are we gonna have enough parking for that? I mean, especially on court night. I mean, court night alone, I just don't know how that could feasibly work.
Actually, and that would be my concern in doing a simple survey, as Alderman Leahy had suggested, because what if it came back and they said, yes, we think you should move City Hall, and yes, we should have a fitness center, and yes, we want to keep the rec center. Well, we know it's not feasible that we can build that all on that site. And then the other thing, the thing you forgot in the equation is the fact that if you move City Hall, you have to also move the library. So, there's, and that's why, and then I'll stop talking, but that's why when I started this, having these meetings at 6 o'clock to decide this, is because this is a circle we've been going around in for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And until we make a decision, and that's why I suggested, make one decision. Do we want to keep the ice rink? I think we all have talked to the public. We need, we know what people feel. Alderwoman Saunders talked about when she was knocking on doors and the input she got from her residents. And the input that I've gotten over the years is, I think the sentiment is most of the residents would like to see us keep the rec center and upgrade the facility. And that's why I said we need to, if we can make a decision on that, then we can move to that next decision is, well, then if we do that, are we going to renovate the meeting rooms, or are we going to then add a fitness center? But, and so I was hoping to do that by a building block process. But I think, again, when you get into these surveys, and you're basically going back to square one, as far as I'm concerned. But that's my opinion. Alderman Kramer, and then I'm
No,
sorry.
that's fine.
Yes, Your Honor. And I certainly appreciate and respect your opinion. I wanted to point out, I've got 3 points here. One is the most recent sampling that we had of the residents of the city came through the Cannon study, and I believe that was '08. And that's what I have tried to quote from myself, and I have been quoting that regarding the gymnasium multipurpose room and its importance, the workout facility and its importance, as a reflection of what the residents said they would like to see if they were to have a new recreation center. That comes from the sampling pages of that study. They also asked for a pool. That being said, a lot of the folks who are sampled who would like to see a pool were not furnished with, and maybe would rather not know that it is very expensive to have a pool, to have insurance for the pool, to have staffing for the pool, upkeep. It's a really kind of a giant nightmare for most municipalities that have had a swimming pool. That being said, going back to the topic of the questions, the one thing that my esteemed alderman on the other side of the dais there, Mr. Leahy, brought up did not include the price tags. And a lot of folks who have criticized us in the past over our sampling technique, the topic was, how much is this going to cost? Can you tell me what the membership's going to cost? Can you tell me how much is the gymnasium or the pool or whatever going to cost? Then I'll tell you what my vote is. If you just simply ask me, do I want a workout center? Absolutely. Do I want a pool? Absolutely. So in those questions, we have to decide if we want to add price tags to them. And I do have respect for the new aldermen that have come on board. I understand they are probably a bad phrase for me to use, but late to the party. This has been discussed for quite some time, and I understand that they would like to give input, and I respect their input, which is probably why things are taking longer than they could. But the final point that I wanted to make is the cost of the survey from a Ways and Means point of view is a soft cost that's reimbursable. The city has spent tens of thousands of dollars through all of our surveys. Ostensibly, if we ever do get sometime in the next 10 years to the point of consensus, there probably will be a request for a bond issue to the residents, and if it is passed, the city will be reimbursed for these costs. Do I think $10,000 to $12,000 is a high cost for a survey? I was hoping, as Alderwoman Saunders suggested, that our previous surveyor, Cannon, could come forward with a discount based upon their previous work for the city, and maybe we could get it done a lot less expensively, and that, in essence, updating their previous sampling. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Saunders, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, and that's been the problem from the beginning, because like here I have quotes from you, the mayor, saying that we don't know, that yes, we need to decide on the ice rink, and then we can move on to how we renovate the rest of the facility. Do we update the meeting room, do a workout, consider costs for maintenance, etc. The problem is when it was first brought forward, we were told, as the new aldermen, the late to the party aldermen, were told that we needed to move this to a bond issue, no interim step, and then let the people answer by their votes. And I said I felt like that was premature, because what do we offer with the ice rink, and we needed some feedback from the residents, especially since there was a disconnect, and that wasn't what they wanted. I can't help it you didn't do the initial survey with costs. I don't know why you didn't. That's the people that were here at the party early chose not to. I don't know why. So
Because that's how the professionals do it. That's why. They said if you put that,
It's
that's
input.
totally inappropriate at that stage. Totally inappropriate.
And let me explain
well, let me
how
finish.
Okay, go ahead. I'm
Since
sorry.
I have the
Yeah.
floor,
Go ahead.
I would appreciate that. So anyway, that's how we got to it. But again, I have the quote right here from Mayor Kelly. Reiterated, it was talked about at a commit level. Number of discussions. It did ask questions to the public, or if you want swimming or a workout facility, but it didn't ask, do you know you already have access to that, which is a huge question because we have an agreement with Richmond Heights. So it goes on, and there's other minutes that say that about the facility, that there is a competition problem, and do we need it? And I've asked at other meetings, are we talking about a hotel workout facility? Or how many treadmills am I going to get on, and what am I going to have to pay? And we don't have that piece of the puzzle. So I just don't think we can, we need a follow-up survey of some sort. And maybe Cannon, I would agree with Alderman Kramer, since there's someone, and resurrecting, the people that are initially on the committee should participate in that portion of it.
And I will stand behind my comments in the past and the comments I made tonight. I think, again, exactly some of the things you were saying when Ways and Means and Public Works were talking about moving this forward a year or so ago and going towards a bond issue. The question I asked was, for what? We didn't know what we were going to build. We didn't know what the costs were going to be. How can you present something to the voters when we don't know what it is? Which brings me back to, that's what I wanted to start this process in order to put a plan together so we could do that. Once we decide, we want to keep the ice, but we know what that's going to cost. Well, we're going to build, do we think we should move forward with a fitness center? Okay, if we move forward with that, what is that going to cost us? How are we going to design that? Okay, are we going to renovate the meeting rooms? How much is that going to cost? We put that plan together to present to the voters, and that's what again, I think we're trying to accomplish. And again, if the board decides to go to a survey and start that process over, that's fine. But I stand behind my comments because I think we're saying the same thing. And so I will stop talking. Alderman Robertson.
We do have a plan. That's what we did in Public Works. We have costs, we have a plan, a general scope of work that describes what would happen. That's all there. That would lead to the next step of more incremental design in preparation for the information that the residents would need in order
For
to
a bond
decide
issue.
on a bond issue.
Right.
That is a defined scope. It doesn't say we have 3, treadmills or 12. It doesn't say that, but it does define the
huge
general
expense.
area of what we have.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, Alderman Tui.
Well, I was wondering if we do go get a survey, how much input do we actually put into it? You said the professionals make the questions, but I guess I see a chicken or the egg scenario. I'm agreeing with Pat here on that. We need a plan. We need something so they can ask the questions, but we're trying to ask the questions to come up with our plan. I almost think a survey should be a couple scenarios. Like Keith just said, that we kind of have a plan, but why not a survey that lists out a couple different plans? And I do agree with what's coming from over here that you need to find some of these terms. What someone might consider a gym might be different than what I consider a gym. I mean, for me, a fitness center is a bunch of squat racks, chains, and chalk. Someone else might see it completely differently. And the terms need to be clarified. I don't think 3 questions like that, I'm not trying to pick on Andy, but three questions like that, 2 intelligent people can have completely different perceptions.
That's what a
And so
professional
I guess
would
my
help
biggest
us
concern is
clarify.
the plan has to drive the questions, but with the questions to drive the plan. So why not make a couple plans and then see what the people want?
Right.
So those are my comments.
Okay. Alderman Mansur.
I just want to say I'm a little confused because it seemed that we had come to a consensus at the Public Works meeting that you were, Keith, Alderman Robertson, were in agreement that, you had mentioned about combining City Hall. But now you're saying we already have a plan, and does that plan that you already have, it doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't include combining City Hall with the rec center. So I'm just a little
No.
confused because I felt like, we had kind of made an agreement, okay, there's that option, and now you're almost saying that that option's not available because you guys there's already a plan, it's been in place, we've been working on it for years, this is what it is.
We
this
have
is
a
what we need
plan
to
for
bring
the rec
forward.
center from last spring. The idea of City Hall was introduced more recently to me because of the large amount of vacant space we've got in this building. What are we going to do with it? Are we going to spend more money on City Hall when we really don't have a good use for that space, which is my opinion? Or are we going to look at being more efficient and creating more of a central town hall issue, kind of layout if we can fit it into the rec center, which if we could fit it in, the central issue is parking. We do have cross easement with the surrounding properties that we can park on at any given time. For instance, the Fifth Third Bank, which doesn't use very much of its parking. So it is doable. Whether or not it's ideal, I don't know. We have to study that. So we're just trying to, since we can't seem to get past the point of deciding yes, no on the ice rink as a board, that's why I agreed, okay, let's get 3 simple questions, have professionals make the question, tell them what we want to know, not the answer, but what we want to know the answer to, and let's just do that right now, and it'll take a few weeks, and let's do it. So we can proceed.
Alderman Sanders.
Yes, well, I mean, I was under the same impression as Cindy, but just like you said, you hadn't thought about City Hall, and Andy's been talking about it for months, or at least since I've been on the board. But that is what I've been talking about with the comprehensive plan. It addresses this corner as well as the rec center as a town hall center. And if you do one thing piecemeal, short-sighted, pulled the trigger on that bond issue, and you didn't consider this building or you didn't consider the town hall center, that's poor planning. And that's what I've been saying. So, this gives us a little bit more what are all the options? We'll get a little bit more feedback with what the residents want, and we'll say, hey, can we do this all in the rec center and with costs associated, or do we need to spread it out? But I mean, a little bit more information just seems like it's needed. The problem with you were
again,
saying, Pat, if you go straight to the bond issue becomes...
I don't want to go straight to a bond issue. Don't say
Oh,
I did.
okay, I
Right.
misunderstood.
No, we don't have
Okay.
a plan. We can't go to a bond issue.
No,
I've said
but I'm
that.
just saying, you said that we'd do that, and then we'd add this, and then we'd add that, and we'd go to the pond issue. If we're adding this and that, are we adding this and that, or are we getting input from this and that from the residents? How does that step happen?
Well, I think, again, from the surveys and the reports that we have, we can put the input together and make the decision. We're elected as elected officials to make decisions. I don't think every time we want to go out and make a decision, we go and do a survey and do a phone poll and do all these other things. We're elected to make decisions, and we've got more information than the general public has as well. For instance, I would never be in favor of selling City Hall and trying to move it over to the ice rink for two primary reasons. We've committed to this building a few years ago when the library did their renovations and spent $500,000 on the renovations downstairs. So we're going to build a new facility across the street with a new City Hall and a new library while we're still paying off the bond issue from the library that was done before. We made a commitment to this site when we built the fire department across the street. And so I think our first concern is the rec center and what we do with those facilities. What happens here at City Hall, we're not in dire need. We don't have to do anything today. It can wait 5, 6, 7 years before we have to do anything here. And I would say that you never have too much space. But you know, again, I think those are the information that we have, and those are the things that go into those equations. And that's why, you know, I think, you know, putting out to the public whether we should move the City Hall over to that facility, I just don't think that would be a good decision. So, again, I think we have to take the information we have as elected officials and make those decisions, and that's why we want to put a plan together. Alderman Sanders.
And I am delighted to hear you say that. I've been saying, and even at the Public Works, that my recollection was that you said you were committed to this building. It was part of Brentwood's history, and that you entertained CVS just because good business always to listen, but that you were committed. I did think, and I'll go back and check, but I thought at the last meeting you opened the door to maybe moving the library over. But I'm just glad to have the recommitment to this building. And again, like I said, you know, the only reason I think we have to go with a follow-up survey is because in 2008, that's a long time. People remember taking it. They don't remember getting any feedback from it. And it's going to say that they want a pool, even though we know they can't have one, and they want a, you know, all Taj Mahal Fitness Center, even though we know they can't have that either. But to go back with them, this is the one time, I agree, we do have to make decisions. There's a ton of ordinances before us tonight, and I believe I'll be able to make them. But this is their spot. This is their town hall, and a little bit more information from them is a good thing.
Okay.
I've got a follow-up question on that. Is it, you want more questions, like additional questions, or is it the length of the questions? I'm going to point this out about the time since the last survey. If our concern is, well, it's 4 years old, well, then why even do this? Because you're saying the public's opinion is
No,
going to sway
not
every
that.
4 years.
No.
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah. And thank you. I kind of like the idea where you were saying scenarios. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you can have this, like, you know, there's some judgment in it now. The ice
Okay.
rink produces money, and so scenarios
Give
of
better
what you
quality
want.
questions.
Like for me, you know, I still have entertained the teen rec or the gymnasium because I know that's not the solve-all for drug and alcohol, but places for teens to go when they can't drive yet, and supervision, and our homes are small, or a lot of the homes are older, and I'd love to have had a ping pong table, but couldn't, and that kind of thing. So anyway, but scenarios like that I think was a good, you put it well.
Okay. Oh.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to clarify a previous comment that I made regarding the sampling from Canon. To be fair to them, and I think it was King, I forget the name of the King, Ballard King that worked with them. They did include as a context for their questions, I remember, if there were to be support needed for a bond issue and or membership fee, would you be in favor of X, Y, and Z? So while they didn't give the exact number, they did say that there would be support needed. And I think in the context of that way of proposing the question, the answers were very, very helpful. They were from 08 into 09, and perhaps, as Alderman Robertson has suggested and others, perhaps whoever we do hire for this process, maybe we'll get a motion for that before 7 o'clock. We'll include that same type of logic when they ask the questions again.
Well, how about this? Do we have a motion to proceed with a survey?
So moved, Your Honor.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering, like, what, but how? I mean,
Well, I think the process should be is we should solicit and maybe even bring in a couple of them and let Public Works interview those companies and tell them where we are and tell them where we're trying to get, and then see if they can come up with a strategy for doing that, and maybe decide from that on which one you want to select.
But we're not locked forward. We're not locked into going forward with this.
No, I mean,
survey. We're
again,
just-
you may talk to them and say we don't need to do that. So that's why I would leave out to the
Presentation.
Okay.
All right. Alderwoman Saunders.
And can I ask, can we ask that canon or that be one of the four?
Well, they
Is
would- I'm
that,
sure
is
they
that
would.
They
wrong?
are.
Yeah,
They're
Okay.
on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Roll call.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Okay. Then if I might suggest another thing, and this might make everybody feel better or may be happy, we'll have our next meeting scheduled at 7 o'clock until we get the survey back and those kinds of things. We won't need to have a rec center discussion. So how's that?
Great.
Nobody's disagreeing with that one?
No.
All right, did one thing right. All right, good. We'll move on, and we do have a presentation or consideration approval of the minutes from the special Board of Alderman meeting from June 11th. Are there any changes? Alderwoman Manister?
On page 18, let's see, I think it's 6 lines from the bottom. Let's see. I believe that it states that Alderman Harper commented that he was offered the benefits when he came in '07 and he did take them. He stated he did not take them. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have one.
And I
Okay.
have
Any other- Alderwoman Saunders?
On page 19, the speaker is Don Beindeck, as far as 33, not
All right.
Landing, Don Beindeck. And
We didn't
then
catch that. Could you please repeat it?
It's Don Beindeck at
Beindeck.
33 Sussex, not Don Blanding. Beindeck. Okay.
And then also on,
D-I-E-M.
DEKE.
Right.
it's
Go ahead.
DIECK, I think. Isn't it?
Is it CK?
Sounds right.
I think it is.
Look it up.
B-E,
Okay.
okay,
We got it. Thank you.
thank you.
Carolyn's on the library board. You can look up her name there. How's it?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion to
Okay,
accept the
well,
minutes as
I had-
amended?
I had another
Oh, I'm
change.
sorry, go ahead.
Okay, and then on page 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth paragraph, Alderwoman Saunders, I feel that part would, in there, it doesn't say specifically, let's see, delay and something we would like, but it's spoken to in the study. We paid for, that we need, after paid, in the last sentence, that we need to go back to the public with results and associated costs. And bring the public back on board is what I said. And then also the sentence above, part would be to take it back and go back because residents remember taking the survey in 2008, but then they just remember it being dropped.
Alderwoman Saunders, could you read what the sentence should say? We're having
Okay.
difficulty following.
Part would be to take it back. That's the second sentence from the bottom, or the second line from the bottom. Part would be to take it back to the public and go back because residents remember filling out the survey in 2008, and then it's just dropped. And the first comment was, but it's spoken to in the $60,000 study that we paid, that you need to go back to the public with results and associated costs to bring the public on board.
Well, I think maybe, do you have it written at all? Or can we
I
just?
do. I'll give it as
That would work.
amended, just
Okay.
as
Great.
amended.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion.
I move to accept the minutes as amended for
Thank
June
you.
11th.
And second?
I second.
Thank you. Motion is made and seconded to accept the minutes as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, minutes from the regular meeting from July 16th, 2012. Any changes? Alderwoman Manister?
On page 5, Gina Mitten, she's the state representative. It's not Jean, it's G, not G-I-N-A. And since she won, we should probably have her name spelled right.
Bless you.
And just- that's all I found.
Okay. Any other change? Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve the special Board of Alderman July
No,
16th.
regular.
Regular
Oh, it is
Board
special.
of- special Board of Alderman for July 16th,
Okay,
as amended.
thank you. We had a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, we have, before we go to, we do not have a public hearing this evening. We have two presentations this evening. First of all, Lieutenant Paul Ferber, a recognition.
We're going to make a presentation to Lieutenant Paul Ferber. Paul started working here for the city of Brentwood. We're doing this a little premature. August 24th of 1982. He was promoted to corporal in 1989, sergeant in 1999, lieutenant 2003. And for people that don't know, Brentwood was the very first police department in the state of Missouri to have DARE, and Paul Ferber and Dan Fitzgerald were the first two DARE officers in the state of Missouri. So, with that, Mayor, if you don't mind,
We'll
we can
bring
make this
Paul in here,
presentation.
make him
Paul?
stand up there while you're doing this. Go read the presentation.
It says, presented to Lieutenant Paul Ferber from Brentwood Police Department from 1982 to 2012, thanking him for his 30 years of dedicated service to the Brentwood Police Department and the citizens of Brentwood.
Sure.
And then our next presentation, we have Ken Hines here, and Ken is an attorney with Curtis Hines, Garrett, and O'Keefe law firm, but he also he's a city attorney for Richmond Heights, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Right? Among other cities. But in working with Richmond Heights, Ken is also a resident of Richmond Heights, and they're working on something very special, and he'd like to do a presentation to the Board of Alderman. So thanks for being here, Kevin.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the Board of Alderman, staff, and members of the public. I'm glad to see such a large crowd here because I'm excited to talk about this particular project. Again, this is not in my role as an attorney. This is my role as a citizen. We've been working on the concept of a Veterans Memorial in the Mid-County area for a long time, perhaps 10 years, and I think we're finally coming to fruition on it. We found a place which would be in front of the Heights, Richmond Heights. They've donated the land or made it available. And we've hired an architect, and if you can see on the drawings that you passed around, and well, you all have it in front of you. I'll just hold this one out for the public. This is the design. We had a architect in Richmond Heights.
I'm sorry. Can you speak in the microphone so they pick that up and then I'll...
Okay. All right. That's the design for the gazebo. We hired an architect with a $1,000 grant from Richmond Heights and a $4,000 grant from the St. Louis County Parks Commission. And we think that the design is very well done. It's kind of an eternal look to it. It'll be lighted at the top. It'll be highly visible from I-64 and anybody passing down that way. And since Brentwood residents use the Heights, and I thought you might have a particular interest in seeing this. This is also, this is the location of it. I should have. Oh, okay.
Just for 1 second, then you can turn around. Okay, if you just want to face around this way.
This is where it would be located, the circle drive outside the Heights. It would be designed, as I say, with the gazebo type structure, and then the base of it would have paving bricks that could be inscribed. One wants to honor a veteran, deceased, live veteran, father, uncle, grandfather, grandmother. It's to honor all veterans, not just those who were killed in action, anybody who served in the United States military. We think it's a great design. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time, but I'm just here to seek your support of the project. I'm not asking you for money or anything like that. We just want to get the word out about it. This is a citizens committee. We meet, there's about a dozen citizens from different areas in the Mid-County area. We meet every other Monday, including this Monday, at Richmond Heights City Hall at noon. And if any of you would like to serve on the committee, any members of the public would like to serve on the committee, I'll leave a few of these documents here. I didn't realize you were going to have such a large crowd, so I didn't present it. Bring with me as many as I needed, but the number will be on there. We have a website now, and we're basically seeking your support. Again, I know Brentwood and Maplewood and Richmond Heights have been very close over the last few years in developing joint services, and I think that's great. That we intend this to be a mid-county memorial. It's a functional one. It'll be one that'll be covered so that it'll be out of the sun and out of the weather, inclement weather, in case there's a ceremony, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, 9/11, any type of event. People could go there. We have spoken to the VFW in Richmond Heights and to the Goth Mall branch of the American Legion, and they've been very supportive. I'm actually surprised. I mean, it's like 100% behind us. So I think it's a great project. I hope you'll support us, and I left the documents. You know where to reach me. Any member of the public wants to reach me. Any questions?
Ken, except for the allocation of the land and the initial grant, is Richmond Heights participating in any other level at this point from a city standpoint?
No, just moral support. Obviously, there's some residents from Richmond Heights, but we've not asked for any money. They are helping us. We're applying for a couple grants. And they've got grant writers over there who help us from time to time. So we do have applications in for some grants, and we really would need those grants to get this going. We're hoping to have a groundbreaking next Memorial Day, 2013. We hope to have a ribbon cutting by Veterans Day, November 11th of 2013. We're coming up on the 100th anniversary of World War I, and I think this is a fitting time to make such a structure. Yes, ma'am.
I do too. I think this is a wonderful memorial. Is there a target as to the amount of money you want to raise? Like it's a
yes, our target is $300,000.
Okay. And then do you have some kind of barometer or something, a thermometer, something that you're reaching this at, or something outside
That's a good idea.
the heights?
We'll have to get one of those. I mean, this
it's an exciting thing, though, like you said, though, with the anniversaries coming up and that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're just launching our fundraising. We went out with a press release today, and this is sort of the kickoff here at Brentwood to get this project started. Any other questions? Otherwise,
Ken, thank you. It's a great project,
Thank you
and
very much.
Okay,
we'll
good.
help in any way we can. So
All right,
thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item 8, bids, and we have a couple tonight. Boa?
On Monday, July 9th, the city had a bid opening for a 2013 dump and plow truck. We received 2 responses to the bid. One was from Dave Sinclair. The bid amount was $48,842 for a Ford F650 and $29,746 for a body and plow. Total bid was for $78,588. The second response was from Truck Center, Inc. They bid $57,129 for a Freightliner M2-106. The body and plow was for $29,746. Total bid was for $86,875. Staff recommends that the bid be awarded to Dave Sinclair at $78,588.
And what was the budget amount for that truck, do you know?
Total budget was, we have it here in the memo.
I was just curious. It just,
It was within the budget.
okay,
80,000, it looks like it says on the
80
next page. Is that
80,000.
Yeah,
the
80,000 for the
2013
2013 two-ton dump truck.
Okay.
And the actual was 78,588.
Okay. Any questions? Do you have a motion to accept the bid and recommendation of staff?
Got a question.
Alderman Tui?
Did you have any attempts for the 2012 hybrid SUV, or is that just being?
No one responded to that bid, and in last month or so, there's been a callback on that model, so we don't expect to go out for that. We're going to be looking at a different model entirely.
Okay.
Any, again, do we have a motion for this bid with respect to the
Do you have the
two-ton
second
dump
one?
truck?
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other
No,
questions?
The second page
Can we do this by acclamation?
for the.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next bid for a rear loader trash truck.
The second bid was for a 2013 rear load trash truck. The budget was $160,000, and we had, how many people responded to that? Do you have? Okay, we had a total of 3 response to the bid. First one was from Key Equipment and Supply Company, $84,402 for a 2013 M2 106 Freightliner. The second one was for $78,379 for a 2013 25-yard 2R111 Leach. Armor Equipment, their bid was $148,970 for a 2013 Freightliner M2 chassis and Hale 25-yard DP5000 body. And the third response was from Downing Sales and Service, Inc., $79,898 for a 2013 Freightliner, $63,020 for a PAC MOR R325C. They also provided another bid for $89,436 for a 2013 International 7400 SBA and $63,020 for a PAC MOR R325C. And staff recommends that the bid be awarded to Armor Equipment for $148,970.
Just so that it's a little bit clearer, a couple of these were, one was for the truck and the other, so they're combining the truck and the dump truck portion of it, or the trash compactor portion on this particular bid. So the 148, where did that fall in with the total of the bids?
Total budget was $160,000.
Right. But I mean, the total of the other, as far as the 3 bidders go, where did that, what were their?
They were not the low bidder, but we have had experience with them.
Okay.
And we feel that their trucks that we bought several years ago has exceeded its life expectancy, and we continue to use it, and we're more comfortable with their service level and the equipment that they provide, which
Okay.
is why we're recommending them.
Just so the public knows too, when we started our trash service, I guess 6 years ago now, and it's been very successful. We initially purchased 3 trucks. We did replace one of them 2 years, or was that just last year, Jim? 2 years ago, through a grant through St. Louis
Waste.
Jefferson County Solid Waste Commission. I think we got 80% of the purchase price of that truck a couple years ago. So we cycled one truck out, and now we're again purchasing another one to replace one of the original ones from 6 years ago. So, any other questions or? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the bid to Armor and Equipment.
And second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Can I do this by acclamation?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next item, item 9, hearing of any matters of public interest upon any persons present. If anybody would like to address the Board of Alderman, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Is it just because that knowledge is there?
Hi, my name's Vicki Woods, and I'm the director of the Brentwood Public Library. And this is my one opportunity to throw my 2 cents in here as I sit and listen to all of you speak about what may be happening with the future of the library. First off, I'd like to say that I'm just delighted that the community supports the library as much as they do. The tax passed by 67%, and we were just ecstatic about it. Thank you so much. I guess I'd like to say that when you think about a community center, I want you to think about libraries as community centers, that they are no longer facilities that house and warehouse books. The future of libraries are going to be libraries that are pretty much, books are taken out electronically. The space that we need will be a space that's more like a living room space. And libraries all over the United States, the movement is towards being the center of the community, being the community's living room, if you will. And that means that they have meeting rooms, that yoga takes place in libraries right now. There are all kinds of things that are happening in libraries right now. So I don't want you to think about the community center and the library as being something that's necessarily different. They should be thinking about them as one and the same, if you will. So I know there's a lot of talk about duplication of services. The people are paying for this library right now, and they're paying a pretty penny for it. We'd like to think that the services that we provide are worth it. If you continue to think about the community center as a separate entity from the library, you'll be costing the taxpayers a fair amount of money. I think you can think about these 2 things as one and the same. So I'd just like for you to take that under consideration.
My name is Bob Addis. I live in 9015 Bridgeport. And I have brought this to the attention of aldermen. I've brought the attention to the mayor, to 3 police chiefs, various other members of the police force. It has to do with the traffic on High School Drive between Moritz and Litzinger. High School Drive widens at Moritz and remains wide until it reaches Litzinger. It is a speedway. The stop signs that were erected permanently at the termination of Bridgeport, where the schools are on High School, are largely ignored by the motorist. I'm only about 100 feet from that corner, and I can stand on my front porch and count vehicles and see how many stop, how many don't stop, how many zip through. 80% of them slow down to the posted speed limit. They're probably going 35 by the time they reach there, so they slow down to 20 and keep going. 10% actually stop. I can see their wheels stop. 10% ignore them totally. They're going through at 35 and 40 miles an hour. I had a police officer tell me he was sitting up there clocking these people. He said, well, I didn't clock anybody that went over 33. Well, that's 13 miles over the speed limit. And what I'm asking, and I talked to Alderman Nguyen earlier about this matter, since he is the chair of the Public Safety Committee. And we need a greater police presence somewhere, a half hour a day, an hour a day, stagger the time, stagger the days. Now, during the school hours, it's not bad. But 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, during the week, it's speedway. And on weekends, hey, you don't want to try and walk across High School Drive. Because people just, I have nearly been hit, both in my vehicle and on foot. I was wearing a safety vest and had a stop sign with me one time. And this woman just came by and nearly got me. I said something to her. She said, oh, I'm sorry. Zipped on. Another woman turned the corner. She was going northbound on High School. She turned on to Bridgeport going east. and she nearly collided with my vehicle. I said, lady, there's a stop. I didn't call her a lady. Anyway, I said, madam, there's a stop sign there. And she looked up from her phone and said, oh, I'm sorry, and just went on. Another problem that is very prevalent is that people waiting to pick up their children in the afternoon park past the no parking corner sign. That blocks traffic. You cannot see oncoming traffic. And this happens daily. And usually it's the same vehicle, and in most cases it's a large vehicle, an SUV or something of that nature. I think, hopefully, that our budget, our city budget, which seems to be boundless, can afford to put a police officer there 2 or 3 times a week, maybe for 30 minutes or so, and catch a couple of these people. And if the word gets around, maybe it'll stop. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But cross my fingers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Anyway, I live on Spanish Drive for 36 years.
Can you give us your name and address?
My name is Vlado Radovic. And I would like to recommend you about the recreation center. I am at Y every day. There's a nice facilities, well managed, Olympic-sized swimming pool. So why don't you ask for a good deal with them like you got Richmond Heights and use that land over there and bring police department back. We have a crime. We have a, you put the best assets we have, you hide them in industrial court. Another my problem is, I had old fence about 35 years old. It was coming apart. So I put new fence, and I was told I need permit to replace, to improve my property. So I had to have a permit. I had to pay money. Then I went to Lowe's to buy dishwasher, it's bad. And they, we found one that we like, and I said, I want you to install it. He said, you have to go to City Hall and pay $51. Permit for what? To replace dishwasher. What's going on here? For example, I don't get involved in city politics, but I came one time to see the city manager, and her secretary told me she take by appointment only. This is a little city. Everybody used to know everybody. Mr. Mr. Road, city manager, live across the street from me. You could come talk and they'll help you and everything. But this is not really the honest government anymore. I mean, why do you have to keep everything secretive? If you don't do anything wrong, why do you keep it secretive? Why Andy said, who was 5-year-old alderman, and then he found there is a health insurance he can get after 5 years? If everybody know about that, we might have a lot of young people, smart people get involved in politics. Because I got nothing against health insurance, but I got against that you keep so secretive. I grew up in the country where it was everything secretive. And you know what I did? I jumped in the river and swam to freedom. And this is getting... So anyway, I would like to know where that money go for like $51 to install dishwasher. Where that money go? And what those money are used for? Replacing fence. My neighbor, it looked like junkyard, his house. And the inspector told me there is nothing we can do. They're driving those big cars through Brentwood, they're burning money, but they got any tools to make people do it. Mr. Wynn told me, he said, well, they give him send him to judge, and that's how democracy works. But he didn't tell me democracy protect property owners here. So those inspectors should have some kind of tools. You should have an inspector who got knowledge of electricity and plumbing. But thank you. Well, too late now. So anyway, that's my problem. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. I'm sorry, could you just
You
give
don't
it-
need
This
an
is not
appointment
the
to see me.
secretary, They call Shelley.
Oh.
I came and she told me you take my appointment. So,
I'm sorry, could you just give us your address too, just for the record? Your address?
you know, I live in Brentwood for 40 years. I speak broken English, but I never saw this before happening in this small city. You know, why to have a secret? You spoke to people, tell them the truth. People are, you know, like this recreation center.
I
We
understand.
spent $50,000 one time for some survey from a company from Kansas City. Remember? You paid them $50,000. What they did? Where did $50,000 go? What did you accomplish? And then we had survey again. You know, Mr. Marshall was calling me and telling me, you know, just talk and talk, go in the air, but nothing is accomplished. So thank you.
I agree. We just have your address is what I was asking. Your address.
My address is 2007 Spanish Drive.
Okay, thank you.
It's Brentwood.
Right, no.
But it's a Brentwood forgotten because, you know, it become dumping ground, the subdivision. You know, you cannot, you know, talk to Mr. Rubin. Oh, they will follow up on anything. Nobody. Thank you.
Okay.
Matt Saunders, 2326 Park Ridge Avenue. I have a question. I know you have a lot of committee meetings. A lot of them start really early, some as early as 4:30. Given that you're doing work for the citizens of Brentwood, is there a way that you could have a standard start time so those of us that have full-time jobs could attend some of the committee meetings? Is that a possibility? I'm not sure how the times are set now, My understanding is that you kind of have, if you're in charge of the committee, you can set it whenever you want. Is there a way there's some commonality with how these are done so we all can attend? Can you guys maybe consider that? Speed bumps. I was looking for the minute, there was a Public Works Committee meeting on July 11, 2012. I'm reading the minutes from them. I missed the meeting. I heard it was pretty exciting. And I asked my alderman, is there a tape for this meeting? And she told me, no, there's no tape for this meeting. So is my alderman telling me the truth? There's no tape for this meeting? This was all written by memory?
I would say so.
This was written by memory. Okay.
We didn't record the entire
Did
meeting.
you record any of the meeting?
By the,
I was told the tape wasn't turned on. Is my
It-
alderman telling me the truth?
it wasn't turned on at the beginning, that's correct.
When
yeah.
was it turned on?
Much later. We don't have the entire recording. I told you that. I'm not
That's
making it
new
up.
information. We heard it was never turned on.
Well, you know,
So this is written by memory. Okay, everyone's going to have to play along here. No?
I didn't
How
do
much
it.
was recorded then?
We
How
had
much was it
attempt
recorded?
Do it.
Go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, I just want to know how much is recorded because listen, just hear me out here. Listen carefully. Mrs. Saunders, Mr. Leahy, Mrs. Saunders, Mrs. Akandi, Mrs. Saunders, Mr. Robertson, Miss Akandi, Mrs. Saunders, Mrs. Akandi, Mrs. Saunders, Mrs. Saunders, Miss Akandi, Mrs. Saunders, Mr. Robertson, Miss Akandi, Miss Saunders, Miss Akandi, Miss Robertson, or Miss Saunders, Miss Akandi, Miss Saunders, Miss Saunders, Miss Akandi, Miss Saunders, Miss Saunders, Mr. Robertson, Miss Saunders, Miss Manistar, Mr. Robertson, Miss Saunders, Mr. Robertson, Miss Saunders, Miss Cruson, Mr. Kramer, Miss Saunders, Mr. Kramer, Miss Saunders, Mr. Robertson. I read off 38 names. Can you recite them back to me, please? And I'm asking this because you're telling me Doris Carter was smart enough to end up remembering 131 names in order. I have a problem with that. Either the meeting was recorded or it wasn't. And I just want to know, was it recorded or was it not recorded? What part of the minutes are correct and what part of the minutes are not correct? I think that's a pretty simple question, and I would simply like an answer to that. If you can't give me an honest answer, I would just say this. That's the problem that we're having here, is we can't seem to get the truth. All we want is the truth. You guys talk about moving forward. Just give us the truth. If mistakes were made, they were made. But you guys want us to move forward? Well, move forward with us. Give us the truth. sorry, I have another point to make. Comment cards are a horrible idea. I don't know if you're trying to shut us up or what, but they're a really, really bad idea. And I find it really upsetting when I hear my alderman goes to a committee meeting and she has to fill out a comment card. I elected my alderman to represent me, and she was told she had to fill out a comment card. Am I misunderstanding this?
No, sir.
We'll adjust it, yeah, that's fine.
Well, it's a horrible idea. If you're gonna shut me down, shame on you. If you're gonna shut my alderman down, that's bad. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is really, really bad public service. So those are my points. Thank you very much. This woman should be working for the Genome Project, not taking notes here.
I'm Kay Scott Boyd, and I live on Moritz Avenue. I agree with Mr. Saunders. In fact, it was one of the two things I was going to say. I am totally against the comment cards. The biggest reason, I don't really care why it was implemented. The bottom line is that, as far as I'm concerned, certainly comes down to a lack of transparency for us. If we have a question as the people of this city, you guys need to answer to us. And those comment cards where you don't answer it for another year or for another month possibly, I think is the most insulting idea I have ever heard from this whole group. Secondly, as far as the survey goes and stuff, I don't think 3 simple questions is going to cut it. Part of the reason for it is because I remember filling out that survey, and my problem with a lot of it was it would ask if I was utilizing something. I wasn't utilizing it, so I'd have to answer no. Does that mean I didn't want to have it? No. And so I think when you make the survey, I think it's really important that you make that distinction. And thirdly, as far as that goes, I agree with the major librarian, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name, I apologize.
Vicky.
But I don't see why, if we're gonna, keeping the City Hall, I don't see why we don't have maybe the meeting rooms down at the ice rink and the ice rink there, and then have this area and the area that is where they used to store all of the fire trucks and stuff like that, that would be a fabulous place, I would think, for the gymnasium, and then it's right connected with the library. And so if we're not going to have a teen place, which I personally really vote for, and my kids are above that age, but I know I started staying home when my kids hit middle school. Most parents stay home when they're really little. I stayed home with mine after middle school, when middle school started, because to me, that's when the most kids are in trouble. And I can't tell you the number of kids that were at my house every week, and at report card time, when their report cards were due, I gave them more hell, sorry, but that's what it was, more hell about their grades than a lot of their parents did. Because I'm the one that made sure that they did their studies and stuff like that. And I think most of the kids that were at my house never had any drug problems or anything like that. And my girls are in the class that had 2 of their kids die of drug overdoses in the last year. So I think a teen thing where it's supervision is a really important thing. And it seems like this area would be great, and there's the library and everything else with that too. And I don't know how many people have considered that, but I wanted to put it in the records. Thank you.
My name is Susan Ryan. I live on Pine Avenue. I want to make certain that, because I did not want to share my address on YouTube, that is not part of coming up with a comment card. I do believe that if I hand my address on the way up, that would be sufficient. But I don't want my comments to be a part of any development of a comment card, because I don't believe in that. I think that we should all have the opportunity to come up here and speak to you directly and have you answer us in the same meeting that we're in. My issue I hear a lot is I think that there needs to be a little bit more respect across the board from citizens as well as from committees back to citizens. The second point I wish to make is I have walked through your processes for a year. I have been considerate, walked through every committee, tried to understand how the city does their business. And Alderman Kramer, initially at one point you said that in this entire process my neighbor should have been punished. The only person punished in the entire scenario that I had with the ARB board in the city was actually my husband and I. It has been a long year. I have given everyone the benefit of the doubt throughout the entire proceeding. I have been considerate, kind, and incredibly patient. However, I have sent emails, and my concern would be how I was treated by the ARB board, as well as how disrespectful and inconsiderate that they were. And I would like there to be some review as the entire process and how they treat citizens. So my concern would be, two, please don't put the comments cards in and utilize me as far as an address perspective. And secondly, please do look at the IRB process and make certain that everyone is afforded a considerate review. Thanks.
Can I just make one no, come on up. No, come on. I just want to make one. We are not considering comment cards at the Board of Alderman. Okay. I have never considered that. I wouldn't have it. I went to a Rock Hill meeting about 12 years ago when I was an alderman and had to fill out a comment card. They never even let me speak. I'm very much adamant against it, and I set the agenda, and they will never be on the Board of Aldermen. Okay, so just so everybody's clear on that. I don't know where that rumor got out, but it's never even been considered as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that, Pat. I won't have to talk about it. I'm Chris Kobler. I live at 8615 Henrietta, as I have for all but six of my 46 years. I like to talk about a couple of things. One is the handbook. I think considering the fact that we've had some problems over the years, especially with the city administrator, and so many of us were unhappy with the way that situation was handled with your predecessor. I don't think giving the city administrator any more power than they already have is appropriate, and I think we really need to reconsider how the language in that book is being written, and you really need to take into consideration that as a citizen, I want to be able to go to my alderman, both of you, and say, this is how I feel, and I want them to have the power to change that, and giving that power to the city administrator and the mayor doesn't give me that ability. I was never for the 4-year term limits. I still think it ought to be 2 years, and if you can't make me happy in 2 years, then you don't need to be here. That's my personal opinion on that. I also don't think, and I apologize, I don't know if this is a dead issue or not, but when I go to work, my employer pays most of my health care. I pay the rest of it, and I think as part-time elected officials, you're not entitled for me to pay for any part of your health insurance. I'm sorry, that's your problem, it's not mine. I also don't think that, considering the problems that we've had in the past, that we need to use the same auditors that we've been using for years and years. They're a part of the problem. There are lots of auditors out there. Find a new one. And pretty much that's it. I want you to find a new auditor. I really, really want you to find a new auditor. I don't want you to use the same guy. Okay? If you want me to believe what you're saying, and a lot of you guys are personal friends of mine. I've known you for years. I go to church with you. My kids went to school with you. I mean, this is something that we need to remember. We're a community of people. I expect that when we have a conversation, you're going to believe what I say, because I'm a truthful, honest person, and I want you to be a truthful, honest person with me. I want to believe and respect what you have to say. So give me that opportunity to get that back. I once told somebody, I will give you my trust as a gift. When you squander it and step on it, you've got to work extra hard to earn it back. You guys are in that position, so earn it back.
Do you want to go to the end? do you want to do it now? Okay. Okay. Can
I-
we make one comment, please?
I'd
Alderman
like
Nguyen.
to make one comment. I'm the one that started the comment card. It's all me. It's mine. I want you all to know that. Nobody else's. Why I did it. For two reasons. One, I thought if we had a comment card, it was not to keep anybody from speaking. No one has ever kept from speaking at the public safety meeting. That's no part of it. What I said was, if you're going to ask a question, write the question down. That was the comment card was about. If you have a question, because I feel, maybe somebody else is smarter than me, I feel like if they'll turn that question in when they leave, then I can have a chance, rather than trying to answer it on the spot, which I'm not great at, I'd have a chance to go home and look up the answer when I come back, and if it's necessary, it could be answered quicker than in a month, because their meetings come monthly. I could then give them a much fuller answer. I think we make mistakes when we try to answer right off the top of our head, and we say something that isn't true. But I just wanted to comment that it was my idea, it was me, it was only my committee. I asked the guys on the committee if they would do it. They said, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we don't have to do it. Doesn't change my life at all. But please don't go out of here putting the blame on anybody else but me. And I say to you that I thought it was a good idea. I gave you the reasons for it. If you think you don't want to continue, if that's the way you feel, we'll drop it. Doesn't bother me. But it was there was no secretiveness, and nobody was wanting to be secret. Heavens above, I don't want to be secret. There was no behind the scene looking for somebody to do whatever with. I'm 78 years old. I've told you all this before. I've been in this community a long time. Why in the world would I want to go around hurting people in this community? I love all of you. I mean, you may not think that's true, but I do. I love the kids you had in school. I've had your kids in school. Now, what you when you leave here is okay, but let me repeat one more time. Please don't blame anybody else here but me. It was my idea. I did it. I came up with it. I talked to the guys in the committee to do it. We've done it for 2 meetings. We don't have to continue it. So just throw the arrows at me. Okay. Pat doesn't like it. I'll throw it out.
Well, no, it's your
No, I
committee.
mean,
You guys just,
but I mean,
I'm just saying it's never
if
been
that's
talked
what
about
the city
here.
and people
Right.
seem to feel that way,
Right.
we don't have to live with it. Okay, is everybody? I hope everybody's clear on that.
Okay.
It's me.
Okay.
Please.
All yours.
Okay.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you. Cindy has a.
Oh, well, no, can we?
That's fine.
I think Lee just wanted to address
I
that
just
in
want,
case.
so
but-
other people wouldn't
right.
be questioning it. That's all I want to do. I just want to.
I'd rather
get it
wait
out
till
in the
everybody's
open
done
and-
with public comment. So I'm sorry.
So it
Denise.
would be straight.
Hi, my name's Denise Sebbing, 2612 Porter, and I would like to ask a question. I'd like to know, in addition to some of the aldermen who are receiving benefits, not everybody, but the aldermen who are receiving benefits, is our city attorney, our prosecuting attorney, and our judges also receiving benefits? And I ask this question because I don't know that everybody's ever addressed it. I want to voice that I think that this is an expense. If you're putting this back out there to reinstate these benefits, this is an expense that you're asking all of us in the city to support or to pay for, not just for this year, but for years to come. And if it's an expense that we're going to be shouldering for years to come, I think that you all shouldn't be hiding behind executive closed doors to discuss it. You all have vested interest, not everybody, but most of you or several of you have vested interest in this. This is something that's hitting your pocketbook. It's your benefit. And we want to know, we voted you in to be our representative. We want to know why you're supporting this. If it's not for the better interest of the residents of Brentwood, why are you voting it? Why are you choosing to spend our money to benefit yourself at the expense of the residents? So I would propose that instead of having this discussion behind closed doors in an executive session, that you address it and share your thoughts in front of the public so we can hear why you're choosing. Maybe there's some valid reasons. I doubt it, but maybe there are. Secondly, I agree with some of the other residents who have come up here and said that giving the city alderman, the city administrator more power is not a good thing. We've experienced over the last couple of years the embarrassment of having too much power and not enough checks and balances when Chris Seymour was in place. Some of you have even apologized that you didn't pay closer attention. And now you're talking about giving more power to the city administrator, who obviously is very busy as it is, we've been asking questions about simple things like, when is the sports attic going to be cleared up? We finally found a statement on the website, but we've not gotten any answers about that. Residents who live in the Ward 3 have been exposed to asbestos. We've been exposed to having to have our area, our city, look like a desolated area. It looks like, you know, if you were going to some areas in East St. Louis, and nothing against East St. Louis, but my God, we have $1.5 million sign saying "Welcome to Brentwood" on one side, and here we have a pile of rubble for almost 6 months with asbestos. It was April, opening day of the Cardinals, that burned down. And it's still sitting there. And supposedly it's going to be cleared up tomorrow. We see equipment, we see dumpsters, and we're hopeful. But we can't get answers. A simple answer like that, obviously, Ms. Akande, excuse me, you are extremely busy, and I don't think that having her take on more responsibility is the best interest of everybody in the community. And finally, I would say that I feel like, Andy, I'm sorry, but we've been trying to get answers from you, and we're not getting them. I don't know if you've been busy, but same thing, a simple question. It goes back to, if you don't want people to call you, then at least respond to the questions. And sometimes we get half answers, and that's the problem. You want respect from us, but you need to respect us too as citizens. Thank you.
Julie, 2211 St. Clair. First of all, I'd like to say thank you finally to Andy for getting on board with the resident survey. I think it's a good idea. And I also think it's a good idea that after the survey results come back, that we need to be presented with a plan, because I believe most people will not agree to blindly pass a bond issue without knowing what we're getting with it. The next thing I wanted to address is BOLA. I've noticed on more than one occasion you've shown disrespect to elected officials, Alderman Saunders, various employees, and some of the public in general, and I think that's unacceptable. I was looking up the municipal code and your duties, and here it states ability to establish and maintain effective working relationships with all elected officials, subordinates, department heads, and the general public. Also, I think it's unacceptable that we don't have proper recording equipment. I don't know if that's your responsibility, to make sure we have proper recording equipment for these meetings and committee meetings. I find that unacceptable. Also, going back to the employee manual, back in, I guess, between 2008, August of 2008 until December 2010, we had hired an employee for the job to write an employee manual. Recently, I think on a number of occasions, you had stated that you hadn't denied throwing that manual away. And then more recently, you said that you misspoke and that the city, that there was an outline or some notes on that. So I don't understand, how does the city justify paying an employee $136,000 over a 2-year period for an outline? I don't know how that happened. Pat, or Mayor Kelly, you said at the last Ways and Means Committee meeting that McMahon Berger was hired for more than just a second opinion. I was at that special meeting. And my recollection, and I went back and looked at the minutes, and I believe Alderman Leahy asked you specifically if we were hiring them for a second opinion, and you said yes. So I was misled, I think, and so were others. And now they were given the job of writing this new employee manual. I'd like to know, when did we hire them to do that? When did the board approve it? And why didn't we follow the proper hiring procedures and have a contract for that job? And then, I guess Alderman Nguyen, I have to agree with most of the people here. I do not like the comment cards either, and I don't think it's respectful to another alderperson to require them to do that. I think Alderman Saunders should be able to speak when she wants, and not just during public comment section, and not with a public comment card. And I'm glad the city, I was under the impression that the city was considering doing a public comment card also at the Board of Alderman meetings.
No.
And I hope that's not true.
It's not true.
And then as far as, I see we're trying to pass an ordinance tonight to terminate health insurance benefits for elected officials. Pat, at one time you had stated that the elected officials were considered full-time employees for the purpose of health care benefits. Now we're passing an ordinance to end the benefits for elected officials. So we're full-time employees and then we're elected officials. Also, I don't understand how we can pass an ordinance to end a benefit that was never approved by ordinance, especially when the legality of that is being looked into by myself and my husband, and we've contacted attorneys on that. The city administrator in this ordinance is authorized to execute documents which are necessary to terminate such health benefits. Are you creating documents to terminate this, or what documents are we talking about here? I'd like an answer to that question, too. It looks like you guys are trying to cover your you-know-what because you're afraid of legal action, or you're afraid, or you know what you did was illegal. And that's all I have to say.
Bob Brown, Ward 1. I want to make a comment of a lady that spoke before. I think putting a great deal more power in the city administrator, given the history here, is probably not the wisest thing to do, and I think anyone who votes for that as an alderman probably should be aware. Okay. I'm going to comment on health insurance. A lawyer here, I'm going to quote here. And after researching the issue, City Attorney Frank Albrecht has come to the conclusion that this is at best a gray area. That's indeed an odd choice of words because it seems like it kind of came out of a gray area. I think we all kind of agree there. So I think you guys should be aware of that as well. I think, regarding that comment, I think Mr. Nguyen, I'm sure your heart was in the right place, but I think as an alderman board, you guys should realize the difference between what your thought was and how it was received by the population, vastly different. Put you guys in a very sort of, I would say, either naive or oblivious state about how angry people are with what you guys are doing. So you guys should really be aware of that. It's just, and also, you've got a lot of people here tonight. A lot of people that are really angry. I don't think I've ever seen so many people talk. I usually don't talk either. I have in the past, but it's getting to the point where you guys are just really pushing it. And I think the contention on this board, it's palpable. You got to figure out a way to work together. We're the city of warmth. Nobody here in this room senses any warmth whatsoever. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jim Malone. I live at 60 Middlesex. I had just a couple of questions. Frankly, some of the discussions tonight about the survey, I really appreciated them because I think I had some misideas about the survey and what we're doing. And I like the idea that you're going to get some proposals about a survey, but Mayor Kelly, I've had my disagreements with you in the past, but I agree with what you said here tonight. You guys are the adults in the room in a sense, and it's your responsibility to make decisions about things that are going to be done instead of, sending things out like, would you like to have an exercise facility and things like that. That's not really, I don't really see the utility of that. But I sent an email to Ms. Saunders, and one of my questions was, it seems to me, and again, I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but it appears that there is at least a problem that if you're going to keep the ice rink, there are repairs or there are things that need to be done to fix the ice rink. Right. And I think you guys can make that decision. And obviously budgeting, and does that require a bond issue? That's something. But I think that when you're talking about, for example, in the last 5 years or so, here's what I've seen. The police department is left here and is over in the industrial park. We've built a new fire station. We have this building that has got empty space in it, or 2 big doors on Brentwood Boulevard. Obviously, I would assume there's been some planning that was done before all of this was done as to what's going to happen with this building when we move the police department out and everything else. And I think that the problem is that there's been very little communication about what the central plan is that you people have decided on and how we go forward with it. Frankly, when I hear people talk about a gymnasium and if there's one thing we've got around here, it's a lot of facilities. We've got the Y, we've got Richmond Heights. What I suggested to Ms. Saunders was, and Clayton is the shining example of this, the city of Clayton had a plan and went ahead with the school district and built the Clayton Rec Center. We have a high school that is a very highly rated high school if you look at the last scores that came out last week in the Post-Dispatch. If Brentwood is really going to become the great city it's going to be, frankly, because of the quality of our schools and the quality of life in the city. And I think what we ought to do is the school, I've been to school board meetings where they're talking about it's a pretty old facility and it needs to be updated. It would seem to me that the Board of Alderman and the mayor would think about, let's get together with the school board and figure out a way, maybe we can get a gymnasium, a pool, where the school district and the city merge on those costs to try to build something that really is first class, that benefits not just city residents but also the students, and is an attraction for people wanting to move here because of the great quality that we have here. That's just a thought. I just think planning is essential. Little things, you guys should be doing that. I frankly, you can get bids on a survey, but I don't think that's going to do any good whatsoever. And 3 days ago, I would have told you something totally different, but I appreciate listening to that tonight. My question on a totally different matter, and about a year ago I was here, and something caught my attention that has never been answered to me. Not to rehash all the Chris Seamer problems and everything else, but last year the City of Brentwood golf tournament, I think, and I'm going to have the facts a little wrong in this, but we turned it over, I think, to the police chief or the fire chief or somebody to administer that. We had a $10,000 profit off that golf tournament. It's my understanding that in the earlier years when Mr. Seamer was running that, it was budgeted to operate at a loss. And I looked at that. I used to belong to a golf club, and I remember they'd have tournaments, and there's really not a lot different. You have the certain number of foursomes, you know what you charge them, and you look at the expenses. And if in 1 year the police chief can throw a golf tournament that makes a $10,000 profit, and for years and years before that, the city had to cut a check to make due for a loss, that says to me that some of the money that came in last year wasn't coming in the earlier years. And that, I think our police department could look into that with very little effort. They could check the people who bought foursomes and just look at their check and say, who was that check and who was it endorsed by? That's something I think that could be done. I asked Ms. Akandi about a year ago if that would be looked into. I've never heard a word about it. And she said, we are looking into that and we're going to have an answer for it. I've never heard a word about anybody following up on that. That could be a lot of money, and I think those things have to be looked into. I have a lot of sympathy for Mr. Seamer, but things were done here, and things have to be made right on that. Thank you.
Karen Smith, and I'll give you my home address. Kind of had 3 questions, one of which I've asked in a previous meeting. I had a list of budget questions when the budget was done last year, and I had commented, I believe at the last meeting, that I understand you're going to be starting to work on the budget for the coming up year, and I wanted to know who to submit those questions to so that either they could be adjusted through the budget process or someone could get back in touch with me. And I'm still waiting to find out how I plug into that process. The second comment that I want to make is in regards to the auditor. I do remember in some previous aldermanic meetings, we said that we weren't going to use that Hothschild at something, whatever their name is. I understood we were not going to use them, so I am surprised to learn tonight that we are thinking about using them again, and I want an explanation as to why we're going to be using them. I feel that they should have identified some of the issues that have been in our city. I do think in that management letter that they wrote to the city, I think they were indirectly insinuating some things. That 2 things should have been stated directly. If they really were seeing problems in this city, they should have stated that directly so that it was very obvious what was going on and what we needed to do to correct it. And number 2, if they were not, if they really didn't find those things, then I want to know why we think we should be using them again. And my last thing is in regards to this ordinance that we're passing for the health benefits. It's my understanding that when we do these ordinances that those are to modify our city code. And so if we're passing an ordinance to end the benefits, then that is leading me to believe that we do have some sort of documentation out there for why or how they were initiated and implemented. And I have asked to see a copy of that. I've been told that it doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist, I guess I question why we would be doing an ordinance. If we do an ordinance, then I do want to see the documentation that supports the initiation and implementation of them. Thank you.
Kay Scott Boyd. I still live on Moritz Avenue. I do have one question, and this is something that really concerns me, and I forgot to ask it or say it the last time. I don't understand why you do on all of these ordinances first and second readings at the same time, because the logistics of reading once and then a second time with a space in between is so that other people besides you guys have a right to go back to their alderman or to the mayor or whoever and say, I have a concern over this, or this is unreasonable. And usually that implies that you're just wanting to take shortcuts and push things through. And I think that's a really bad precedence to be setting. And I don't think we should set kind of a precedence, and I don't see why that those things need to be pushed through. I mean, you can do a synopsis 1 or 2 times of the reading, but I think passing them both, reading it and then saying first reading, second reading, is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And the other one that I was at, that you all did that, I didn't have a copy of all of those little things, so I had no clue what all you were passing, and I pretty much pay all my taxes and do all those little fun things, and I think I have a right to know what ordinances are being passed, and because you're doing it so quick, I didn't know what was going on. And I really think that process should be go back to the original first and second readings, like our last time I checked was in Robert's Rules of Order, which, Andy, you love to quote. So that's my other thing.
Jim Pozo, 2211 St. Clair. I guess regarding the municipal online code, or municipal code online, I thought I was looking at some stuff this past April, and I found some things in it, and then when I went back to look at them recently, I couldn't find them. So are there changes being made to that online, between last April and now? Another question on these benefits, I guess for elected officials, if they're, I'm going to say, official benefits, then why did it take, like Andy, 6 years before he was told of them? 7 years
7.
before he was told about them.
Yes.
And, you know, what we understand is there were other aldermen that were not told about it in those years. So that's one thing. And if it isn't official, why do you need an ordinance? Shouldn't you just say, it's ended, it's done? You know, there's no ordinance to support it, so why do you need one to kill it? Just drop it. Another one. Let's see. I keep thinking on this benefit thing. You went to an attorney to get legal counsel, and we haven't heard whether it's legal or illegal or whatever. And I keep thinking we're the citizens. You're using citizens' attorney to decide whether or not a personal benefit is good for you guys. And I keep thinking, is there some conflict? Who's representing us up here? Then the last one, I think I was looking through there's some Missouri Municipal League, and I think giving any money to charity or anything is against the Missouri Constitution. I believe I saw that, so I don't know. You know, we've done that in the past. We've used things that have, you know, we've lent them to other organizations, and I don't think that's legal. So that's it.
Okay, we'll close public comment, and I'll see if I can address some of these issues. I'm sorry.
I think you do have one more.
One more, I'm sorry.
That would like to speak. Our pleasure.
My name is Catherine Boyd, and I live off Moritz Avenue. I haven't been very involved in city government very long, but I've been sitting at these meetings and have been astounded at the lack of respect that is within your colleagues and given to us as a community. And I also want to comment on the fact, if you're rude to my alderman or if you block her, that is disrespectful to me. I put her there, and if you block the things that she's trying to do, you're directly impacting me in a negative manner. And that is not your job. Your job is supposed to be aiding her in every way that she can so that she can best help us in our ward. That's your job. And I find it completely and utterly disrespectful that this is even an issue. This shouldn't be an issue. We all know each other. We've known each other
I'm sorry,
for...
can you give me an example of what you mean?
As in rude facial expressions, cutting people off, putting hands up. That's all rude. And it's not necessary. We can handle this in a completely kind manner. We are the city of Worms. We should be exuding that in every single one of these meetings. For me to stand here and have to say that, that's a problem right there. Because I've seen on multiple occasions where people have been rude to my alderman sitting up there, and people that have been, and instances in which she has described being blocked. That's not acceptable. Because I put her there on purpose. Trust me. I drove 2.5 hours to vote for her. I mean, we need transparency, and we can't do that if we're blocking each other. We should be working together. I mean, we all come from different walks of life. We all have different jobs and different things to bring to the table. We should be utilizing that from each other instead of stabbing each other in the back. And when we do that, we're stabbing every single person here. So I want to ask that we wipe a clean slate for everybody and give everyone a new chance so that we can move forward instead of going backwards all the time, because we don't need it. We've done enough. Just go forward.
Thank you. All right, David, one more. How's that?
David Dimmitt, Pine Avenue. I just wanted to quickly and briefly say something that's important to me. I've heard a lot of complaints here tonight. This is the first meeting I've attended in, I don't know, perhaps ever. And something that's very important to me, I've heard what's important to a lot of people so far, but what's important to me is, at risk of sounding overly dramatic, is life and death. There have been crimes that have been committed here over the last few months, and I haven't heard one person address that. And I would like to thank the city in general, and the police department in particular, for its response to these incidents. I hate to use the word spate of crime. That might be too bold, but I first heard about the most recent one in the Brentwood Square by way of I call it a robocall. Apparently I had signed up for this through the city, and I came home from work, and there was a message on my answering machine, told me about that. The beauty of that was I was able then to talk to my children and talk to my wife and let them know. My wife is somebody who goes there on the weekends and goes to all the other retail establishments in the evening or on the weekends because she works outside the home. And the police department, I think, really should be applauded in how they've handled this whole thing. They've come out, we've talked about transparency. I don't think you could be more transparent than the police department has been. I know for a fact with other adjacent municipalities how they have handled crime that's taken place in their municipalities. Sometimes those crimes never see the light of day. You never hear about it. And there's an obvious reason for that. It's not necessarily in their best interest to let people know that there's crime taking place at a retail establishment. But I've heard people say that they're embarrassed by this city. I'm proud of this city. I'm very proud of this city by how it has responded to this. It doesn't care that with these crimes it might affect business. They're more concerned about the citizens and their safety than it is about the revenue coming in here. So again, I would like to applaud them because I think the chief of police, whoever it is that sent out that letter, nailed it, hit it right on the head, that the best way to stop this is an informed public and to let us know to be on the lookout for these things. So thank you.
Okay. I will try to address some of these items. I may miss a few. I'm not a good note taker. But with respect to the minutes, if there is a partial tape of that meeting, I'm sure we can make that available to anybody who wants to listen to it. I think it's been explained that the tape wasn't on at the beginning of the meeting accidentally. But I also want the public to understand at our subcommittee meetings of the Board of Alderman, we have 3 committees. We have Ways and Means, Public Works, and Public Safety. We have historically, whether right or wrong, never had a recorder at those meetings. So this process of recording those meetings and using that as our record at the subcommittee level is something that has just started. So it's one of the reasons we don't have, I guess, what you would consider to be appropriate equipment to record in those meetings in our conference room next door. The reason that we don't do that is by state law. The only thing we're required to do, even at the Board of Alderman level, is to record motions and then record the vote. And so at the subcommittee level, which is, again, below the Board of Alderman, they can't take any permanent action. So what we would keep in the past would be the motions that were made and then the vote tally that was taken. Any action that they take at the subcommittee level then needs to bring forward either an ordinance or whatever the issue may be, a survey that they want to expend funds for. That comes to the full board, and then we vote here, and then those are recorded, they're on TV, they're in our minutes, and that's how we keep our records. And so, again, at the subcommittee level, it may be duplication, and I don't know whether it's a good idea or bad, but to record all those meetings and then have all those minutes, like we said, we've attached those to this meeting tonight, and then we've got 10 or 20 more pages of paper of minutes from a subcommittee meeting that really don't have any permanent effect on the Board of Aldermen. So, but if that exists, I mean, the part of it, I'm sure they can address. The comment was made, speed bumps. We've talked about that for a number of years throughout this, back and forth in the city, but I can tell you that the public safety, especially the fire department, has, in the past at least, been adamantly against speed bumps because of the damage it does to their equipment. Both transporting people in the ambulance and then the weight of the fire trucks going over speed bumps would greatly damage the fire trucks. You primarily see those on private streets.
And snowplows.
Oh, and also is hard on the snowplows. You're right. Yes, if we had those all over the city. With respect to a couple other things on the rec center, before we even entered into the agreement with Richmond Heights a number of years ago, we did approach the YMCA and had a number of meetings with them, and have actually talked to them since. I think what you'll find, though, is I think their family membership right now is upwards of close to $80 a month. In our agreement with Richmond Heights for a family membership, which I contend is a nicer facility than the YMCA, is only $30 a month for a family. The only discount that the YMCA was willing to give us at the time, and again, still today, because they are corporate, they can't do for one municipality what they don't do for another, they could give our residents a discount on their membership, which I think, again, these numbers may have changed, but it used to be $125 to register to become a member. I think they would discount. What was proposed to us in the past was they would let us register for $25, but then we had to pay the same family rate and individual rates that the YMCA members are. So we did try that, and it was, again, going to be very expensive for our residents. Let me see. As far as the library and the rec center goes, Vicki will confirm that I have talked to her about that before. I am not against that, but again, I wanted to do one step at a time. I wanted to get the ice rink done first and say that's what we want to do. Because I think if it gets to that point of discussion, the city could utilize that space downstairs for our housing office. We could make that and utilize the investment that was done down there, make it an easy entrance for people coming into City Hall, a secure access for people coming into City Hall to pick up permits and all those kinds of things. So I think that is a discussion that could be had, but they're getting a little bit ahead of me is my problem, because I was trying to get the ice rink done first. But Vicki and I had talked about that, and I think it would be a good amenity to the rec center and that center over there. Let me see. What are... I'm just going to address this in general terms because I think there's a lot of, and I'm going to speak a little bit from my heart here. I think people hear things and they interpret it the way that they want to interpret it because they've got an attitude or not an attitude, but already an opinion about what's trying to be said. And I don't take it in the wrong way, but when I said there was a gray area, I wasn't referring to a gray area with health care benefits. That was my word, not the city attorney's. The gray area was how to discontinue the benefit, whether it needed to be done by a vote or whether it needed to be done by an ordinance. And so, again, I think that's why the question in the ordinance was being put on there. And I just hope that people, again, would try to start working together and not take everything in such a negative way or think that we're trying to hide things or cover them up. I think we try to be as open as we can in this community. You have more ways of getting access to information in the city of Brentwood than I think most municipalities. And if anybody ever has a question about whether we're going to require comment cards at Board of Alderman, nobody ever asked me that. Tonight was the first time I've heard that was something that we were considering to do. And it's not. And I just wish people wouldn't think the negative all the time and maybe start thinking the positive, and we can all work together to move forward. With respect to the ordinance, and was brought up, not all ordinances affect the code. There are ordinances, we do contracts by ordinance. Those don't go into the code book, and those kinds of things. So there's different types of ordinances and different reasons for adopting ordinances. And again, one may be or may not be to eliminate the health care benefit. With respect to the doing something with the school district, I will go back to a presentation, and I've told a number of residents here, and they've heard it before. We talked to the school district about that when they were trying to sell the Fraser property. And we've done a study, a quick analysis from the city before. If the school district were to work with the city and maybe sell all the property that they own in Brentwood, which they are the largest property owner in the city of Brentwood, and all of it is in prime residential neighborhoods. We could add almost 150 homes to Brentwood if we did that, and then we could build a brand new school system down on Manchester Road, and then utilize some of that space down there. So, and these are things that we've talked about in the past, but again, it comes down to the cost and the ability to do it and all those kinds of things. And the school district didn't, again, like we're attached to City Hall, They don't want to give up the buildings that they have because of some of the historical and some of the sentimental value to those buildings, which is fine. But I just want people to know that we have had those discussions before, and I think they'd be great ideas if they worked. But again, at the time, that wasn't the direction they wanted to go. With respect to the police department, Sports Addict for a second. It has been very frustrating from the city of Brentwood. The next newsletter comes out. I will talk about that a little bit in there. We do not handle the permitting on that type of demolition, primarily because of the excavation of the asbestos materials that was in the siding. That is handled through St. Louis County. The owners had gone through and gotten all of their permits and were there over a month ago ready to start. St. Louis County came in with St. Louis County Water and shut them down and wouldn't let them proceed until their shutoff for the building is over on the south side of Manchester by their building, and that's where they turned it off when they cut off the utilities. Well, St. Louis Water came out and said they wanted them to cut it off at the main, which is on the north side of Manchester Road, which is going to cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Potentially have to close Manchester Road for them to cut it off there and shut it off at the main, opposed to where they did it on the other side of the street. The owners of the property have been fighting with St. Louis County Water and St. Louis County since then in trying to resolve that issue. And so that's been what the delay has been, and nobody's been more frustrated than us in the city of Brentwood. They did have to submit some money to us in a retainer. Our housing department finally, or not finally, but again, out of frustration and giving them time to resolve the issue, sent them a letter last week saying if they didn't get this resolved, we were going to start using their retaining money to go start the cleanup process, which means, I guess, basically the first thing we'd have to do is go ahead and untap or tap that on the north side of Manchester Road so that they could start with the excavation. So it was really the St. Louis County and St. Louis County Water that were holding them up on that process. It is an eyesore, and we're all tired of it. And but again, I think the city of Brentwood was doing everything we can in context with the procedures we have to follow with St. Louis County. With respect to the golf tournament, the one we had 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, it was a success. And I can tell you that we went out and got a lot more donations than when we had in the past. We had one business that donated $5,000 in cash to the golf tournament. I personally donated $2,000 out of my campaign funds, as well as another business donated $2,000. So that was almost the profit right there for the tournament that year. And so, but with respect to the past budgets, yeah, we did find out later that they were budgeted at a loss. You know, that's what we found out after that process was over. Let me see. Ordinances, school district, ice rink. As far as this first and second readings go, you know, we've done that here at the city of Brentwood, as long, whether it's right or wrong, but it's been the policy that we put in place before I was an elected official for the city of Brentwood again, which is 20 years ago. The reason for that is in order to pass an ordinance, we have to have a first and second reading. I'll give you a good example. So tonight we have like 8 or 9 ordinances on there for easement agreements with the city or with property owners for our trail project in Hanley Industrial Court. If under the first and second reading at one meeting and then another meeting, we would have to have, again, it would put another at least 2-week delay in approving those ordinances to do that. Most of the business that we entertain, most of the ordinances that we have here at the Board of Alderman are pretty routine ordinances. The Board of Alderman always has the option to have a first reading one night and then postpone the second reading of an ordinance to the next meeting if that's what they desire to do, if it's an issue that the residents want us to talk about. But in order to be as efficient and try to keep the process moving forward as best we can for a lot of people who may be applying for an ordinance for an easement on their house or applying for an ordinance for well, like these things, or just general ordinances with respect to easements and those kinds of things that are pretty much just the day-to-day operation of the city. But I think it's important to understand that if there is something that is contentious or that people want time to review, they can come to our meeting, they can say that, and we can always postpone the second reading or even table the ordinance for that matter. I'm just, again, that's just how those things got put in place. Trying to think. Any other comments from the board? Or Alderman Leahy?
No, Mr. Wynn.
No, Mr. Wayne?
I just want to make everybody aware that we talk about transparency. In 1996, I came back on the board, and we were the first city to take the cable television and begin over in the basement of the building, it was over there, to have a channel that had television on it where we could televise to the whole community. We decided to have on it all of the meetings of the board, and we'll also have the other planning and zoning. And those are on almost every day. And they've been on since 1996. And not many communities. Matter of fact, I appreciated that board at that time for being looking forward and seeing this was something that was coming. So because of the board that saw that at that time and continued to do it, and then we hired Kevin back there, as Kevin would admit, and we've done lots of things with it. But it was just one attempt at that time, and I think it's worked out very well, to say, yes, we should be transparent. We never try to ever, we don't do half a meeting, or, you know, we try, sometimes things are broken down, but we want to show everything there is. So I think it's been a great thing, and I think we do try to be as transparent as we can.
Right. Alderman Lee.
Thank you. To respond to the question about the rec center and possibly doing a joint venture with the Brentwood School District, the rec center committee did have a 2.5-hour meeting with the Brentwood School District with the proposal of trying to combine the resources. And we did that 5 years ago. And the school district thanked us for our offer and walked away from it. When the rec center committee turned the program back over to the Board of Alderman and it got sent to the Public Works Committee, the Public Works Committee had a secondary discussion with the YMCA in order to try to get joint facilities with them. And that, unfortunately, was our second conversation with them and did not yield anything that would be beneficial. So we're back to what are we going to do with our rec center and how to make it work to go after it. These things had been discussed and had been seriously pursued. They weren't just a fly-by-night passing thought to work with. The city manager's powers and stuff that's going on right now in the codes and what is being proposed, these are things, the city manager's position really hasn't changed much. What we are looking at is to who does report to who. That hasn't been finalized. We're looking at the handbook. It has a hierarchy structure in it. We already know that we're looking at that and parallel with Sullivan cleaning up our codes. The board still has to resolve bringing the codes and the handbook into congruence with each other. That hasn't been decided because we haven't seen the Sullivan back from the codes yet. Yes, the department heads have chimed in. They're not excited about some of the changes, and it's been heard. The trick is until we get everything in front of us, we can't make a finalized decision. Now, early in the process, it was decided, do you want to do one thing and nothing and wait for the other, or do you want to try to run two things in parallel? We were under the impression that running both in parallel with each other would hopefully get us quicker to a decision versus waiting for one and then go back and do the other. I don't know if that was clearly communicated to everybody to work with, but it's still being looked at. Your comments have been heard, and I don't know the Board of Aldermen haven't been listening. We just haven't gotten to a decision making yet. We're just trying to run in parallel to work with. I am not aware of, Jim, your concern about whether the codes on the website have changed from April to present. I was on the website today. I'm not aware that anything's really changed. If you've got a specific, I'd love to look at it and see if I can help figure out what the difference is. But I didn't think that anything's come in yet because we have yet to get the Sullivan report back to go and update, and that's the big thing that we're trying to get done to work with. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, and the city doesn't have access to that. We do not have the ability to change that on site. or the code book. That's handled by Sullivan for us. The only thing that would have been changed is something that was passed here at the Board of Alderman that would have affected the code book. But I was just trying to think, I don't think we really have done anything with respect to that. And I would like to address the city administrator's position with the city of Brentwood. And, you know, it is unfortunate what transpired, and I think we've all agreed, the aldermen that were here before, that, you know, we should have overseen some of the things that were happening in the city in the past, and feel as bad as everybody that those things transpired. But I would not throw every city administrator in the same boat. We hired a professional city administrator that when we hired him, we were listening to the residents of the city of Brentwood. We wanted to have somebody that we could have accountable for the city of Brentwood. And I think we did a good job of hiring somebody that really wants to take on that responsibility and be accountable. As Alderman Leahy said, we're not changing any of the things that much in the past. The only one real change that we've been talking about is in our code book that we didn't know until about 3 years ago. There's a code in there that says that the police department reports to the Public Safety Committee. It's the only department is separate from any of the other ones. So what we're trying to do is create so that the police department also reports to the city administrator like the rest of the departments do. My personal feeling is, and I'll use a word I don't like, but it's been used against us here at the city of Brentwood before, if we have department heads reporting to the elected officials, and we have elected officials running those departments on a day-to-day business, that only sets up the good old boy system. Because then you have elected officials and working together with the staff, and in order to get what they want done, they're going to hire the people they want to hire. They're going to do the things that they want to do. We need to have professionals run the city on a day-to-day basis and have them run it on a professional basis. The Board of Aldermen and the mayor should be legislative. We need to oversee the city, make sure the budget's in place, and do all those other things that we're supposed to be doing. We shouldn't be doing hiring and firing of employees. We shouldn't be doing the day-to-day operations and directing employees on what they're supposed to be doing and not be doing. And I think, you know, that's the difference. And I think, you know, again, the only change is that we're trying to have accountability in the city, have one person we can go to say, why wasn't this done? Ultimately, it's still the Board of Aldermen and the mayor, because the city administrator, except for the day-to-day operations, which it spells out in the code book, that position should do. Except for that, any of the other changes have to come to the Board of Aldermen. You know, so we need to have somebody. That's really what we're talking about. We're not talking about that the city administrator just goes off and does whatever they want. The city administrator is a person that has to run the city on a day-to-day basis. That when a department has an issue, they come to the city administrator who then helps them resolve that issue. Okay? Because, again, that's just the way I think the city should be run. And I think that one change in the code book, that the police department report to the city administrator, is the one we're talking about. It's not about any of the other departments because they already report to the city administrator. So, and why that was ever put in that way, it would only be somebody else's guess to do that. It's prior to 1960 when the last big code up. I mean, that's where we can see the dates that it was prior to that. Or 1970s, I think. 60.
Is that what happened to
The code was changed in 1969.
9, thank you. Right. So why they did that for the police department back then, I don't have any idea. And it is something that we had talked about changing in the past when it was brought to our attention a few years ago. And again, it just, you know, didn't get done. Okay, so
You're right.
Alderman Robertson.
I think it would be important to recognize that one of the biggest changes we made last year after all the problems with Chris Seamer was the finance officer that we hired,
right,
who used to be the finance officer for a city in Washington of, what was it, 300,000 people?
Right.
Very experienced and very sophisticated person. Now, that's just the person. That's not the position. But the position itself is the watchdog. And we do have a line item budget now that everything is very identifiable. Anybody who wants to see it, board, mayor, administrator, citizen, can look at that budget and see exactly what's in there.
Right.
So, which I would encourage anybody who wants to do that. And that's the biggest thing, that, you know, that we don't have rampant executive powers that person, along with the board, is looking over the dollars and is going to put up the red flag if she or he sees anything. So,
and on top of that, is a CPA and also has worked actually in the state auditor's office before as well.
Oh, that's right.
And again, that goes back to our accountability. We're trying to put a staff here together, a professional staff, to really take Brentwood to the next level. And I think we need to give them the opportunity to do that. And if they don't, then we can make changes. But I don't think it's the responsibility of the mayor or the Board of Alderman to be running the city on a day-to-day operation, directing employees what to do. And that's what we're talking about. So, Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. I agree with those comments, and I wanted to address some of the comments from the audience. I made a small list here, and I'll try to get to a few of them briefly. I also wanted to, separate from that, echo my viewpoint that, yes, whenever we do have a legislative change that's voted on here at the aldermanic level, that will eventually find its way to a code revision. Once upon a time, we received those code revisions on paper, and I think that there is now a process by which, when those code revisions are made available to that Sullivan publication company at regular intervals, those are interjected, and probably a reason why some things look different from this year to last as a reflection of those legislative changes. Mr. Radovich made some comments from Spanish Drive, and at the risk of repeating Alderman Leahy's comments, I'll echo that sentiment. Being a member of the Recreation Center Committee at that time, we had a rather long-winded and frustrating conversation with the YMCA to try to have a co-op, some sort of a working relationship with them to have a savings to the city for recreation center abilities between Brentwood and the YMCA at that facility. One of the things that we discussed was their peak time, their peak load at that facility requires more parking really than they have right now, let alone when the city comes knocking at their door. They basically turned around and for lack of a better expression, walked away from our conversations. As well, the school district, Alderman Leahy has it right. We were very clear and very open and warm and welcoming with the school district, and I don't feel that any member of the committee at that time felt the return favor from the school district at that time. Let's see, Mr. Saunders from Park Ridge made some comments about the comment cards, and I wholeheartedly agree. We are very fortunate in the city of Brentwood to be one of the more inclusive groups of elected officials, as well as the way our government is run here, in allowing the residents to speak. If you want a really sad wake-up call, go to a St. Louis County meeting. Tuesday night is your next opportunity. I've been there. They're awful. They're not inclusive. The comment cards, if they do get to you, are very restricted. They don't allow you very much time. They just assume you not be there. You don't really get a chance to speak. Other municipalities, including, I believe, Richmond Heights has comment cards. Some other municipalities have comment cards, and they're not inclusive. When I came on board in 2003, I was very fortunate that I made a request of the board, as well as our city staff at the time, that we begin doing a synopsis before all of the bills that are read, so that the residents can understand what it is that we're doing up here, why we're doing it, how we got to that point, and hear it in layman's terms. The attorneys read what they have to for our legalese and for our proper checks and balances legally, but the residents never did understand when it went by like that. What in the world just happened? And so I agree that comment cards are not something that I would be in favor of. I don't think it was anything the city was seriously taking into consideration. I do believe the Public Safety Committee addressed it, and that was brought up already tonight. It's not done on the Ways and Means Committee. And also the time of the committee meetings. There has been a push since I had the opportunity to take the chairmanship of Ways and Means, thanks to appointment by the mayor, to institute some scheduling changes. One of those was alternating meetings at 6:30 at night. That really, to my knowledge, has almost never been done. The opportunity for the residents to be able to come forward and speak and hear what's going on, perhaps after dinner, as possible. One of the reasons that we have perhaps not had that much in the past is some of our committee members or committee chairmen have full-time jobs, and it's all sometimes difficult to get staff to agree to be here at night when they've been here during the day as well. That's a scheduling conflict, and we have some meetings in the next few months that will be at 6:30 from the Ways and Means point of view that will allow the committee to visit with the public. Also, I wanted to agree with Chris's comments from Henrietta. Didn't get your last name, sorry. Okay. I definitely agree on a change in the auditor. I've said so publicly, both at the Ways and Means Committee meeting and elsewhere. I believe the change should have been taken seriously some time ago. I know that we do have to undertake a proper process to receive proposals from other providers of that type of service. I wholeheartedly agree with Chris's comments. Ms. Sebbing's comments on the Sports Addict site, I was very vocal about those in the past. I'm very concerned about asbestos and have spoken to department heads about that, and I'm really excited that that's moving forward. And finally, my hope, following under Mr. Dimmitt's comments tonight, is that more residents will take advantage of our unique program called Code Red. Code Red is an opportunity for all residents to sign up and have access to warnings from the city staff regarding multitudes of topics, whether it is a lost child, whether it's an industrial accident, whether it's a weather emergency, whether it's something that needs immediate notification, maybe just one ward. We have a way to do that with Code Red. You can go on our website, sign up for it. It's very easy. The information is not sold or shared with any private entity, and it's a good program. Thanks for listening.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we start here? Alderman Toohey.
I just want to comment on the audit, and I know I am a CPA, and I have 7 years experience of doing audits. And I just want to point out, our audit's a financial audit, and the intent is not to find fraud. Through testing, if you find it, it is acknowledged. But fraud, especially at a higher level of management with some form of collusion, is very difficult to find. Now, I've never looked at their audit programs and never delved down on the testing, and I'm not saying maybe they shouldn't have found it, but it's not as black and white as a lot of people think. The consideration is being made to replace them. That can be very valid. But at the same time, change your auditors is a big decision. Your auditor has a lot of knowledge of your processes. It's expensive to change auditors. So this isn't a comment saying let's keep who we have, but I think keeping that on the table and considering it and keeping all of our options open is not a bad idea if we decide to change, that change can be made. Now I'm going to go into a bigger point. I've noticed a lot watching the crowd. There's a lot of speculation made, a lot of hearing rumors, and that does concern me. Just because the board's considering something doesn't mean it's going to happen. But we need to consider every option and do our best practices. If you're listening to rumors in your ward about this is going to happen, that's going to come in, maybe just come to the meeting without an opinion already made and just ask what's being considered and why, instead of just yelling at the board, why are you going to do this? We should always consider every option for every topic we look at. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Those are just my points.
Alderman Manister.
I just want to address the comment cards and where I think it came from. In our weekly city administrator's report dated on August 10th, and this is the August 17th report, it says, citizen request comment card. At the request of Alderman Nguyen, staff has developed a citizen request comment card which was used at the Public Safety Committee meeting on Thursday, July 19th, and will be used going forward. Given the comments we heard during the public comments about speakers not wanting to give their address, this card will allow us to have their address and in writing their comments before the meeting starts. Octavia Pittman would collect the forms prior to the start of the meeting, and we would hand them over to Mayor Kelly. Other committees could also adopt usage of this form. The attachment shows the generic speaker card would look like for the Board of Alderman meeting. And then there's two different cards. One says should apply to the Public Safety Committee, and then the other one says speakers are allowed 3 minutes. And at the bottom, it states that it is recommended that you submit questions, concerns to the city administrator prior to the meeting or as you leave. Your topic will be addressed at the next meeting. And it says it on both. So unless there was a mistake or a typo, that's where the comment cards, that concerned me, because I thought, are we going to discuss this? Is this something they're wanting to do? If it's a matter of another ways of communication, perhaps for someone in the audience that doesn't feel comfortable coming to the podium and speaking, if there's a lot of dissension going on and they wanted to write something down and have it addressed later and then hand it in, I think that's okay. But if it's just a means of the way that we're going to be able to hear from our public, I'm certainly not in favor of it. And that's where I think the alarm came from, because it stated it in two of our weekly.
Yeah, and again, I think that kind of goes to the accountability of our city administrator. You know, she took that initiative after hearing what happened at the public safety meeting, as well as the concerns of some of the residents here. You know, and I would tell you, I never really looked at those or paid attention to them, because when it was suggested to me whether we wanted to even consider comment cards, I said no. And that was the end of it. That's why I never went anyplace else. Because, again, I don't like them. I don't think it's appropriate. And I think the residents have an opportunity. I do have a concern, and I agree with the concern that some of the residents have addressed here, where they don't want to give their addresses primarily because of YouTube and the fact that they're shown on the Internet. I think that's still a decision the Board of Alderman needs to make. If it were up to me, I would entertain a motion to remove our meetings from YouTube. People can go to our website and watch them. They can watch it on local TV, and I think it gives them full access to it. But I don't know why it needs to be all on YouTube on the Internet. And people that are interested in watching our meetings know that they have access through those other two sources. That was a decision that was made at a committee level last year, I think, just in talking, and then they all of a sudden, the next week or two, it was on YouTube.
I think it was Mike Marshall's.
Right, I know, right. And I'm just saying it was never something that was voted on by the Board of Aldermen, and I think that was again, the committee directed staff to do it, and it was done, but I don't think it's appropriate, but that's my opinion. Alderwoman Saunders, or Woman Saunders, thank you.
And I understand what you're saying in the fact that, you said no, you didn't like the comments, and you said no, and you thought that was the end of it. The problem is we're getting the weekly reports, and especially us new aldermen, we're hearing from our residents, they don't like it, and we don't know that it's the end of it. The way you said that, it was almost like you got the decision, that was it, and it's ended, but it kept coming through the report, so you could see where it would produce a little bit of anxiety.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's just a clarification. But that's it. I mean, we are new, and like when Alderman Toohey said, we have to check, we have to explore all options. The problem I'm having as a new alderman is I ask more questions maybe than somebody that's been sitting here for a long time, because I am new. But I don't like to get, like when I offered about the survey, or at least going back because there was a disconnect, I get met with, you don't know what you're talking about, and it's simply a question, and I kind of need to know, like, the same thing at the Public Works meeting. I asked to table that conversation because Alderman Leahy was more experienced and couldn't be here. And I was yelled at so unbelievably. And then that tape now was never turned on. And we were told at the meeting it didn't exist. We didn't say partially. The tape was never turned on. And, you do get a little bit nervous. I ask questions, and sometimes I'm told I need full board direction. And I'm like, just answer the question, and maybe it's a moot point. It's just that I'm trying to learn. And I don't know, like, for instance, for me, when you guys say I'm an elected alderman, I really take this job seriously. And I don't believe that I need to have everything, a vote on everything. Not at all. I read, and I can make decisions. But I need to get the answer from the experts, my city attorney, the city administrator. And I shouldn't have to report everything through BOLA. If I just want to ask a question as a department head as a learning thing, unless I'm going to take a lot of their time and have them produce a report where you would need to be that I was taking their time away, as a professional, I should be able to talk with them and have them educate me or find out the answers. It provides a safeguard. If I find something a little bit that doesn't seem right, I can then clarify it with BOLA, and it just provides for better accountability. So there's just a disconnect in what we've been told, the newer aldermen, of kind of some hoops in that we have to jump through, but maybe we've disposed of some of that tonight. But then also I do want to, Mr. Malone, I didn't mean like to go back for a survey or everything needs to be a popularity. I can definitely make decisions, and I've said all along I felt the ice rink is one where I think we do need to move forward with it. The problem is that comprehensive plan. How does it fit in there? And that, when I went to Jeff City, the guiding principles were the budget and the comprehensive plan. They said, as an alderman, those are the two things that you are most responsible for. They're your guides. So you know, okay, we all agree this is what we're going to spend our money on, and I'm going to make sure you're going to stay within that. But that comprehensive plan is your vision. I asked at the workshop that we went to that it be updated next year. It should have been updated this year. But that's where you keep pulling in, are we on track? Are we, the school conversations are in there, and you keep making it. And I did say at my Ward 1 meeting, someone mentioned to me the possibility of, if we wanted a pool, with maybe the private swim club. Now, don't get all up in arms. I don't know whether the private swim club would even entertain that idea, but I know I'm a member, and I know you can't sell your memberships, and I know the pool needs a lot of work, and people don't want to pay more than their $450 dues for just the 3 months. So that's a possibility. That's a possibility that a pool that the school could share in and that maybe the city could share in. So we do need to talk, but it needs to be in that comprehensive plan. And that's why when we were pushing forward with the rec center, I wanted to know right away, how did it fit in the plan? Because the plan is for all of this to be the town hall center. And you're right, when we move the firehouse, what's the bigger plan? And that is really what I want, is good planning. I often go to Clayton's website and look at it because they're a good role model. And we're coming up right now on the budget. And 1 and 2, this is another discrepancy, but we were told, you know, we'd have a budget workshop. We had a workshop to get to know each other as aldermen, and later we're told this was actually the budget workshop. Budget is never mentioned in this workshop. We need to come forward now. The public should be aware. I have 2 weeks since this past Wednesday to get what I would like to bring forward in the budget. And there should be some input. Clayton does some community input into their budget, and it's out on their website, and it shows you the difference, and they do staggered readings on their budget so that there is time for community input. So I just wanted to let you know that, but I do think planning and then having input within the budget and that is needed.
If I may, Your Honor, we talked about this building. I have a resident who has made the request that if Public Works would take a look at the firefighters' doors to the building, that they might need some scraping and painting.
Good idea.
If we're not going to immediately do anything with this building, can we at least make it look good and maintain it?
And then I get the last word since I'm mayor. I'll say one more. Oh, I'm sorry.
Before
I get the last word.
I'll
Alderman
be quick.
Harper.
I just have two
Sorry.
things.
That's fine.
Going under the premise that the police department's the only department that reports to public safety, I would like to point out why that's such a good idea, because the police department has not been involved in any of the recent scandals. Other departments were. So I think that's why it's important that they report to committees instead of one person, because that can lead to the good old boy network that you mentioned earlier. The second thing is I've been fortunate to sit on both the school board and the Board of Alderman, and from my perspective, I would say the city does a lot to try to incorporate the school into some of these things with the rec center. And I know when I was on the school board, the mayor came and talked about trying to do some more, like building a school complex, which I thought was a great idea. So I just want to make sure that, you know, having sat on both sides, I think the city does a really good job of reaching out to the school district.
Okay, and I, again, now can I have the last word? Yes. This is kind of a good one. Yeah, I just want to touch base on, something that happened, back in the late 90s with respect to our police department and moving it down to Hanley Industrial Court. Because some comments are made, that we sold the property across the street that then became TGI Fridays, and then we move our police department down to Hanley Industrial Court and taking that asset away and sticking away in the middle of Hanley Industrial Court. And just so you know that some of the decision-making processes that went through back then with the police chief and with the input of the alderman, one, we sold that property for over $1 million. And we bought the property in Hanley Industrial Court for, I think, around $400,000. The other idea is that you put a police department in the center of Brentwood on Brentwood Boulevard and take away that valuable piece of property that can be property tax generator, as also as retail, not now because it's a bank, unfortunately. But, you know, again, you take that option away if you make that public space and those kinds of things. The other thing with respect to a police department, one of the key decisions that Chief Carabas at the time reiterated on a number of occasions was he actually liked the fact that the police department was going to be located down in Hanley Industrial Court because when they are releasing prisoners and those kinds of things, you're not releasing them like it used to be here, right in the middle of our neighborhood and right in the middle of our community. When people are coming to pick them up, posting bond, and those kinds of guests of our police department are now being handled in an industrial area opposed to being handled in our residential areas. And again, those were just some of the factors that went into that. And you might not think this was funny, but I always thought it was funny at the time. You know, Alderman Glowski, no longer an alderman, but Dan said at the time, he said, you know, what we need to understand is that, you know, this isn't Mayberry RFD. Our police are not sitting in the police department waiting to get a call. Our patrols didn't change. Our operations didn't change from the police department, whether they're located in the middle of the town or whether they're located in Hanley Industrial Court. They're all dispatched from the patrols that they're on. And so from an operational standpoint, where their building was located didn't affect the police department from that standpoint. And those, again, those were just some of the things, but those were the big ones that went into that decision-making process at the time. And I would like to echo the response our police department has done on a couple of instances in the last few weeks that have happened in Brentwood. And one of the primary reasons that they opted to put out that letter to the business owners down there was the frustration from the police department when they started interviewing people down in Brentwood Square last Sunday, was that one of the employees from one of the businesses said, well, I observed those guys for about a half hour, and but didn't call the police because, unfortunately, didn't want people to think that she was pointing them out in the parking lot. And so, and yet, you know, seeing them walk around the parking lot and observing them, you know, if that person had taken the initiative, and I say this to residents all the time, you should never hesitate to call the police. You know, if it's nothing, then fine. And in this instance, you know, maybe just a police car driving through the parking lot would have sent those guys on their way. And so the letter went out to basically say, hey, we need your help. You know, if you see something out of the ordinary, don't hesitate to call, you know, and hopefully we can eliminate those things from happening in the future. You know, it's a great idea to do that, and hopefully we'll open some other people's eyes and have that communication so that we can alleviate or not have those problems in the past. So I think our guys do a great job. The other thing the police department is doing is they are increasing the patrols within our shopping districts, you know, to make sure that we have more visibility down there, especially as we get into the shopping season. So. With that, it is about 5 to 9. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is introduction, reading, and passage of bills. What I would like to do is entertain a motion for the first and second readings of bills number 5685 through 5694. This is for the first and second readings only.
Your Honor, or should that be through 5695?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, 95. I skipped one. Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. First and second readings of bills number 5685 through
96.
Bills number 5695.
Not 96?
So moved,
No,
Your Honor.
we're going to executive session on that.
I'll second that.
Okay. And, okay. First reading of bill number 8685.
First reading bill number 568.
We have to do
50, I'm sorry.
We have to do a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Getting ahead of myself. All in favor of first and second reading, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Now, clarification if we can, Your Honor.
Right.
Bill 5696, you are moving to executive session?
Right. We haven't, yeah.
That, it's not that it's not being addressed, but
Right.
you're moving to executive.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. First reading of bill number 5685.
First reading Bill number 5685 by title only, an ordinance readopting ordinance number 3153, section 2-471 of chapter 2 of the revised code of ordinances of the city of Brentwood for 1987, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, and in a little bit more layman's terms, Bill 5685 for personal and financial disclosure policy is a bill that provides for an ordinance readopting Ordinance 3153 of the City of Brentwood, which approves the city's personal and financial disclosure policy as required by Missouri state law. This bill is adopted annually by cities with an operating budget over $1 million and sets forth rules and policies for disclosing personal and financial information for elected officials and the city clerk administrator. The city is required to readopt this ordinance annually by September 15th.
Okay.
Which, that's the problem I have here.
What's that?
I'm sorry, this is August. So not, thank you.
Okay.
We're still
a month ahead.
Any second reading, please?
Second reading Bill number 5685 by title only, an ordinance readopting ordinance number 3153, section 2-471 of chapter 2 of the revised code of ordinances of the city of Brentwood for 1987, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderwoman Saunders?
I had, this is, the first time I'm dealing with this, and I had questioned whether or not there's more stringent requirements for the city clerk administrator and the purchasing agent, whether those requirements should be also for us too, since we're at the top of the organizational chart. Do we feel that that's?
But, I mean, really, we shouldn't be handling any of those operations. No. They go from us to the city administrator.
Well, I just thought that this, I mean, isn't this just a requirement? I mean, it's not us handling anything, but it's the name and address of each sole proprietorship that we all, is that us? That,
yeah,
that would be all of us?
You haven't filled one out yet?
No.
Okay. It just as clarification. So when we fill it out on an annual basis, it'll say, as far as, have you worked for the city and earned more than $500? Mm-hmm. Okay, under any position for $500. Has your spouse done any business for the city and received any compensation over $500? And then you have to list all your family members, your kids, and all those kinds of things. So I think it's what you're asking is it's the same for everybody.
Okay.
Right?
But
yeah.
What do you have to fill out, Bola? What's the A and B under
the same
3?
It's
that same form.
Oh, it's the same for us too.
Yeah.
And it's online.
Okay.
Right.
And then can I ask though that you'll notify us? I mean, there's nothing in there because I haven't filled out that
That's
form.
The way it was done in the past was actually the city clerk always notified us that they were due and kind of made sure that they were.
I don't want to miss this. Do you know what I mean? If there's a deadline, then I'm supposed to know.
We will notify you.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do mail it to you too as well. Right.
There's a clarification though.
Okay.
You must fill in the form if you raise more than $500. Right. If you do not meet that criteria, there is no reporting.
Oh, I always send it in anyway.
You could never see the forms or work it through. Yes, you have a...
Yeah, that's my question. I mean, I haven't filled one out, and I'd be willing to. I don't, if I need to do that.
They're usually done around June, I think, is maybe.
May.
When?
May.
Or May, right. So you wouldn't have done it this year, it would be next year.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Make sure I'm doing
there's also an important trigger in that if you have impact in some way, shape, or form over business being done with the city, and you are related to that person or otherwise have control over that person, that's to be disclosed as well.
I said that. Your spouse has
Yeah.
to do the same thing, right? And your
Business.
kids, right? Yeah. Well, if your kids work for the city, you're supposed to disclose that.
But it's them doing business with the city.
Right.
Yeah.
It can be employment too, though.
Yes.
Okay.
But this year, even though we're elected April, we're excused.
No, because when you fill out next year, it will be for the prior year, kind of like your taxes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
That makes sense.
Sorry.
Okay.
If you don't have the $500
Right.
threshold and you have no business with the city, you will have no reporting
Okay.
to work with.
Okay. Motion, please.
Motion to approve as presented, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion was made by Alderman Kramer, second by Alderman Leahy. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister. Yes. Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Thank you. First reading of bill, I'm sorry.
Bill number 5685 is now ordinance number 4361.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill number 5686.
First reading Bill number 5686 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with CH2M Hill and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5686, flooding feasibility study for Manchester Road, and that study between Brentwood Boulevard and Hanley Road. It's a bill for an ordinance with the City of Brentwood authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement between Brentwood and Elise Ibendal, PE-CFM, CH2M Hill, for the flooding feasibility study for Manchester Road, and that study is between Brentwood Boulevard and Hanley Road. The Brentwood Redevelopment Corporation met on Tuesday, July 17th, 2012, and recommended staff present this to the Board of Alderman for its approval. Our City Attorney, Frank Albrecht, has reviewed the agreement and recommends its approval.
Okay. Alderman Leahy.
Your Honor, if I may, for the public's edification, the best that the 353 Commission can do at this point is there are areas that with the creek on the south side of Manchester and certain things that we can do that maybe we can reduce some of the flood line and keep it all on the south side versus hitting some of the areas on the north side. The best we can do is start and try to see if we can keep working piecemealing step by step to accumulate some money and also get some other groups involved to hopefully look for a better solution than doing nothing at all. We did have an agreement with the Corps of Engineers, the City of Shrewsbury, the City of Rock Hill, the City
Webster,
of,
not Shrewsbury.
Webster, and Brentwood, looking at trying to do something with the creek. Unfortunately, that didn't work as well as we'd like it to. It's not that we just threw up our hands and said no. We're trying to come back again. This is a good way to start in that direction.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'd like to add to that. This is a subject kind of near and dear to my heart, and we've been talking about it for a very long time. This is the first really tangible step, I would say, that we've made in a long time to sort of recovering the flood areas down there that are really devalued and eyesore types of areas. And I have space in one of the storage facilities down there because, which I couldn't afford if that was like the rest of Brentwood probably. It's just a place, and I was flooded out in 2008. I had a lot of stuff in there that was damaged, but it's really something that I think is going to help the city in the long term, kind of recoup its investment. And I think it's a great step, especially with what we've got going with the barren properties, the apartments, and things like that. We can actually see some possibility of success.
Right.
I got a quick question.
Alderman Tui.
For Alderman Robertson. So you think this could actually develop into some commercial property that can be developed at some point? I mean,
Potentially.
Best case scenario.
Yeah, best case scenario, sure.
Best case. Okay.
It's the planning and the comprehensive aspect of it that we need to really pay attention to.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yeah, I attended this meeting, and I was very impressed with the consultant. I mean, she was very thorough and seemed like that. I was wondering maybe if Ellen could speak to, we kind of bypassed our procedures and we went specifically to her just so that the public knows why we engaged this particular person. But like I said, I thought it was a good thing, a good step. We need to do something or at least take a look at that. There was one person, Greg Reinders, I was hoping he was here. He came to my Ward 1 meeting, and he was opposed to it, saying that we'd done enough studies. But like I said, I went to this meeting. I thought it was a good thing. John, I don't know if you know of any other studies we've had done on that, or he thought it should just be left to be a wetlands or an athletic facility or something.
Tag team.
Sorry, two.
You stay here. No. I view this as there have been other studies that have been performed, I believe, but this is the first time that the city of Brentwood itself has tried to solve or mitigate, not solve, but mitigate the problem simply on our own account and for our own property owners without having to try to coordinate with other communities. So that's I think, what sets us apart.
Okay, great. Thank you.
At its annual meeting in 2011, the Redevelopment Corporation asked staff and the executive director of the Redevelopment Corporation to talk to firms who had specialty in this area and see if there were if it was even feasible a possibility to eliminate flooding or mitigate some of the flooding for Brentwood between Hanley and Manchester. So staff pursued that. Elise Eibendahl is a very highly qualified, and you did get a chance to meet her, and she's actually been the engineer responsible for the modeling that MSD has done. She's worked with with FEMA, and also so was highly qualified based on her experience. So that's why we, the Public Works Superintendent and I, did meet with her and some of the staff at CH2M Hill, who also includes the retired Army Corps, because it's the Colonel? Is that correct? Tom O'Hara, who is now with CH2M Hill, and felt they'd be an excellent resource with the specialty needed for this particular job.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your Honor.
Alderman
And just
Kramer.
to clarify, there will be stakeholder involvement in this. There's going to be some opportunity for input as well. And I believe we got a very good pricing through our arrangement that worked out for this.
Okay, thank you. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5686 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with CH2M Hill and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion, please.
I move that we perfect Bill 5686 into ordinance form.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion was made by Alderwoman Saunders, second by Alderman Nguyen. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Bill number 5686 is now ordinance number 4362.
Thank you. Bill number 5687, first reading, please.
First reading, Bill number 5687 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the City of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into a grant agreement with the Missouri State Council on the Arts and providing for the effective dates of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please, I'm sorry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Never mind, I'm sorry.
Sure.
It's getting late.
Yeah, it's okay. Bill 5687, the Missouri State Council on the Arts, is one that authorizes Mayor of the City of Brentwood to execute an agreement with Missouri State Council on the Arts for reimbursement of 35% and or $1,400 of the expenses for the Performing Arts Workshop put on this past summer. The Parks Department collaborated on the workshop with Star Entertainment, and the city worked on a similar collaboration previously in 2012. 11, sorry.
This was 12. Okay. Alderwoman Saunders?
I didn't see, does the grant application come before us? I thought they said in July, and I don't remember this application, and I don't know what it was for.
I don't believe the grant application came before the board, no.
Again, we had already established the program, and this is just through the Parks Department had done that, and on their initiative, they applied for the grant to get this partial reimbursement back for the expenses we've already expenditured. So, yeah, I may have signed that grant when you did it earlier for your application or whatever, but I'm not sure.
Right, the mayor
I just
does
don't know.
sign it.
And the other thing is since there's no, this is actually like the agreement, but what was it for? What did we do with that money, or what was the grant?
Sue, if you want to come up for
Sorry.
there's a program that they did through the parks.
Sorry.
No, it's for performing arts camp that we hold at the rec center, and we did it last year. I believe last year was the first year. It's for young children, and it actually was very cute. They sing and they dance, and normally we get a 70-30. We get 30% revenue back, and with the grant, we're allowed to get more if the grant's approved, and it usually is by the Performing Arts Council. So that's what it's for.
Okay.
So do the how long? How long is the camp, and the kids pay for that as well?
Yes,
right?
the children pay for it, and it's a week. It's a Monday through Friday. I think it's approximately 4 hours each day.
So
we had
it's just a way
several
of
camps this year.
Subsidizing our program.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5687 by title only. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the City of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into a grant agreement with the Missouri State Council on the Arts and providing for the effective dates of this ordinance.
Okay. Any other questions?
Is this
Motion,
an
please.
annual grant application that we apply for?
If they have the
Yes,
funds
if
available.
they have the
If they have the
funds,
funds,
yeah.
okay.
This was
Okay.
Okay. Motion?
Motion to approve Bill 5687 in ordinance form.
And second.
A second.
Motion is made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderwoman Manister. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper. Bill number 5687 is now ordinance number 4363.
Okay. Now I'm going to deviate from our regular procedures here. If I could just, bills number 5688 through 5695 are all dealing with easements with respect to either permanent or construction easements for our trail project, our sidewalk project in Hanley Industrial Court.
88 is not.
Huh?
88 is not.
89.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do. So, when we get to 88,
We appreciate
I'm sorry,
the effort.
I circled the wrong ones.
89.
Once we get to those, that is the explanation for what those are. I'm going to ask that we don't read the synopsis for each one of those as we go forward.
That'd be just
We
fine,
will
Your
do the
Honor.
first and second reading, but eliminate the synopsis. They're just for those right-of-way and permanent easements for that sidewalk project. So, but let's go back. If we can have first reading of bill number 5688, please.
First reading Bill number 5688 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into and execute an agreement with Gilmore and Bell and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Your Honor, Bill 5688, the Economic Development Bond, IRS audit authorization for an engagement letter, potential conflicts of interest letter, and power of attorney and declaration of representative letter. This bill's for an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Brentwood to sign an engagement letter, power of attorney, and declaration of representative letter, and potential conflicts of interest with Gilmore and Bell, P.C., for Economic Development Bond Internal Revenue Service audit representation. The Internal Revenue Service has selected the Tax Increment Refunding and Improvement Revenue Bonds, Series 2008, Hanley Station Redevelopment Project, issued February 13th, 2008. Reported issue price, $8,697,150 for examination. And further, we've been informed that at this time, the IRS has no reason to believe our bond issue fails to comply with any of the applicable federal tax requirements. The examination is intended to assess the overall compliance risk of the bond issues. They are only requesting general informational response and are not requesting any supporting documentation.
Okay. Any questions? Alderman Saunders?
I do. I know we talked about this at Ways and Means. Alderman Kramer and maybe Alderman Tui, you can help out here. And I'm fine with, using them. But what I was wondering is, have the IRS, once we got that information document request, could the city fill that out initially, and then if we get asked more questions, we engage Gilmore Bell? Because it's pretty straightforward, yes, no questions. It doesn't seem like there's anything out of the ordinary.
We don't know that, and we want that added protection.
Okay.
That is why we recommend using Gilmore and Bell.
Okay.
Just as a clarity, some of them are yes, no, but the questions themselves are pretty technical.
Okay.
And I think what, you may see simple to say yes, but, the meat, it's really tax attorneys that are going to be helping us put the answers to those together. And again, council recommended that we, have their help in doing that so that we don't end up creating a much larger audit than we need to just because we said yes to something we shouldn't have, kind of thing. Okay. And so, again, our legal fees in this can be reimbursed from the TIF. So we will be the city will recoup their funds for that. But it is a routine audit, and hopefully, in the end of the day, it'll end up being routine. I think it will be. So, okay. Alderman Leahy.
Can someone explain to me why, if we use Gilmore and Bell in the initial release of these bonds and all of this, that there isn't a conflict of interest if we hire them to be our tax advisors to move through this audit?
It's their Kansas City office that would be helping us on this.
Right.
So same company, just different locations, IRS, so.
That's why the IRS requires that they.
Not only is it the set, but it's also going to be their tax division opposed to their bond department.
Okay.
So and that's where their tax office is in Kansas City. It's not really the fact that they're in Kansas City, but the bond counsel that helped us with the issuance of the bonds will
Was
not be the
Gilmore
one
Road.
answering, right, but will not be the ones answering the questions.
Okay.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Also in the agreement, they have a conflict of interest. They have a statement there that
Right.
they signed saying that it's not a conflict of interest.
Understand, but
And again, they're routine questions, and that's who you want to answer them, firms that are somewhat familiar with the actual issuance, so, yeah, second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5688 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into and execute an agreement with Gilmore and Bell and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Motion, please.
Motion to approve Bill 5688 as submitted, Your Honor.
And second?
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Kramer, seconded by Alderwoman Saunders. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Bill number 5688 is now ordinance number 4364.
Thank you. Bill number, first reading of Bill number 5689.
First reading, Bill Number 5689 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and MJEM Enterprises, a Missouri General Partnership, MSWCP Enterprises, a Missouri General Partnership, and Crombach Hanley Industrial LLC, a Missouri Limited Liability Company.
We're going to waive the synopsis. Any questions? No. Well, I think I already explained it. If you don't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the synopsis is longer than the reading. So, okay, Alderman Leahy.
If I may, Ellen, if I can pick on your brains,
Sorry.
please. The question that I have is that the working through all of the easements and the agreements, did we stay within the budget of what we projected this project was going to run? Or have these things thrown us a big curve?
No, well, we're not sure because we still have one parcel left that we're negotiating a settlement with. Our right-of-way negotiator
Okay.
is working on that.
So him aside.
But we, that aside, if, with just these, we're still under budget, and it depends on the outcome of that last negotiation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to Ellen, I'm just going to make a comment. You don't need to stand up there and listen.
Okay.
I was going to say.
I was getting ready to leave.
I know. Thanks. Sorry. Just so people understand this is the grant that we got for the sidewalk project in Hanley Industrial Court. We are basically in the second phase of that, which is the right-of-way and permanent easement negotiation process. And in doing that and dealing with federal funds, there are certain procedures that we have to go by. We hired outside negotiator to go in and do our right-of-way and easement negotiations for us, and then we have to make sure that all those T's are crossed and I's are dotted in order to get approval for that. So it is a lengthy process, and there's certain things that we have to do in order to move this forward. And so it's really being handled by the professionals that really know how to do this kind of thing. So, okay, Alderwoman Saunders.
Can I ask? I don't understand these easements that well. What's the difference between why a temporary easement and a permanent easement? Like this, some of them are just the temporary, and some of them, this particular one is both.
Some of them you may need to go further back in their yard with equipment or whatever while you're working, so it's giving you the ability. That's what would be the construction aspect of it, or you may be able to have to dig further back in order to put the forms in and those kinds of things. So that's the construction part of it. The permanent easement would be where the actual project is going to lay.
Okay. And the other question, for this particular person or entity, did we give them tax assistance?
None of these have had any tax assistance. No.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Your Honor. Oh, I'm sorry.
Alderman Robertson.
I think it might be useful to just point out to the public where the path is, and also that this is part of an overall planning effort that we've had for many years with our adjoining cities to create more trails in the city of Brentwood, which I think Brentwood right now is far ahead of a lot of other cities, but we're hoping to go a lot farther and tie that in with the rec center project perhaps too.
This is in general terms from the Metrolink walkway just south of Deerberg's It will go down just a little bit and then turns through Hanley Industrial Court. And because I don't even know the names of the roads in Hanley Industrial Court, but basically we'll come down, go down in front of Metro Lighting. That way we'll have a new sidewalk. It'll all be on the south side of the street there. We'll have a new walkway into the promenade, which will connect their sidewalks. Now there isn't a sidewalk in that little section right there. We'll continue down around the corner, go all the way out to Strassner, and then the crosswalk will be put in place there to connect with our existing trail system that is down by the roller rink. So, and this is about a $900,000 project, Ellen?
That's correct. It's about
Okay. $900,000, of which the city, we got a grant, and the city, we're paying 20%. So, over about a 3-year period. Alderman Kramer?
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to echo how excited I am about this project. It's a way to allow the residents to stay out of the street. You know, we see them when we're driving through Hanley Industrial Court. It was never really set up for pedestrians, and this allows someone to get from the Metrolink to Applegates or stop off at the promenade in the middle of the way there without having to worry as much. And I just want to thank Ellen for all the work that she's done on this. One side note, I am saddened by some of the property owners who felt it necessary to, charge the city or hold us over a barrel for an item that's going to be used for the public good. That wasn't much in terms of frontage to them, but I'm glad that this is moving forward, and I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Alderman Saunders?
I agree with Alderman Kramer. It's disappointing that they didn't donate the property since we're approving their property, but I'm equally glad that they didn't get tax assistance from us, because then I'd be really upset.
Just want to echo the sentiment. I've walked from Brentwood Forest to Metrolink a couple times. You're taking your life in your own hands on some of those streets, especially when you cross that bridge.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5689 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and MJEM Enterprises, a Missouri General Partnership, MSWCP Enterprises, a Missouri General Partnership, and Krombach Hanley Industrial LLC, a Missouri Limited Liability Company.
Okay. Motion, please.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
Motion is made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Leahy. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Toohey?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Bill number 5689 is now ordinance number 4365.
Thank you. First reading, Bill number 5690.
First reading, Bill Number 5690 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and JDK Properties, LLC, a Missouri Limited Liability Company.
Okay.
Your Honor?
Alderman Kramer.
There were some copies of 5690 distributed with some crossouts on the actual title of the bill that are different from what you just read.
No, it's exactly what he read.
The crossout that I have strikes out "and a permanent easement agreement."
I have strikes.
As well, it strikes out "by State Development Agency of the Missouri-Illinois Metropolitan District."
Bill 5690 should be between the city and JDK Properties.
Right. But at the top, it says, "An ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement," and the part that says "and a permanent easement agreement" is stricken out of this copy.
Alan, do we need a permanent agreement? No, we don't. And the by-state part was eliminated too, right?
If I might, on the original draft sent out, there was a typographical, it had by state development. It was corrected, and I think this just shows the deletion of by state and the insertion of JDK in lieu of by state.
No. Sure. No. Tom is correct.
Oh.
The permanent easement is also
okay.
marked out.
Oh, that portion should not be.
Correct.
The permanent easement needs to be in place.
No, it does not. No, right?
Wait a minute, and I've got the attorney saying yes and Ellen saying no.
Well, no. Frank's not saying that.
No, I'm-
Please stand by. Yes. While we retrieve that information.
This is actually only for temporary easement.
Only for temporary. So we put in this sidewalk, but it's not on their property. We're going to park equipment.
That we had, right, we had ample right-of-way for the sidewalk. We just needed a few feet for construction easement.
Thank you for the
You're
clarification.
welcome.
So JDK is the entity, and there is not a permanent easement.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Just as long as
Okay.
we're all okay.
Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill Number 5690 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement
Nope.
between the...
Nope. The permanent part, you've got the one that should be struck.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second reading Bill Number 5680.
90.
Or 5690. An ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and JDK Properties
There you
LLC, a Missouri limited liability company.
That's it. Okay.
Motion to
Motion to
approve.
approve
Okay. Motion.
5690 as
amended.
marked.
Okay.
No, it's not been amended. This has
Okay.
been marked up.
First and second.
Yes.
Motion is made by Allen Lay, second by Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Bill number 5690 is now ordinance number 4366.
Thank you. First reading, Bill number 5691.
First reading Bill Number 5691 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Jack Taylor or successors, trustee of the Jack Taylor Revocable Living Trust, UTA, dated June 9, 1997.
Okay. Second reading.
Second reading Bill Number 5691 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Jack Taylor or successors, trustee of the Jack Taylor Revocable Living Trust, UTA, dated June 9, 1997.
Okay. Motion, please.
Motion to approve Bill 5691 into ordinance form, Your Honor.
Second.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Motion is made by Allen Lay, second by Alderman Kramer. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Bill number 5691 is now ordinance number 4367.
Thank you. First reading, Bill number 5692.
First reading Bill Number 5692 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Bi-State Development Agency of the Missouri-Illinois Metropolitan District.
Okay. And second reading.
Second reading Bill Number 5692 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Bi-State Development Agency of the Missouri-Illinois Metropolitan District.
Okay. Motion, please.
Your Honor, I move for adoption.
Thank you. Second.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion was made by Alderman Robertson, second by Alderman Lay. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Bill number 5692 is now ordinance number 4368.
Thank you. First reading, Bill number 5693.
First reading Bill Number 5693 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and DDL Partnership LP.
Okay.
Correction, Your Honor.
Alderman Lay.
Miss Ellen, this bill also has the permanent
Strike out.
easement agreement marked out on this one.
Correct.
Okay. Frank, then we need to correct what we read.
Okay, we'll do that in the second reading. Okay.
To work with.
So Frank, on the second time, if you will amend to remove the permanent easement. Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill Number 5693 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and DDL Partnership LP.
Motion to approve the Bill 5693 as marked,
As amended.
as amended.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Motion made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderman Kramer. Roll call?
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Bill number 5693 is now ordinance number 4369.
5690, first reading 5694, please.
First reading Bill number 5694 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Gravoy Development LLC, a Missouri limited liability company.
Yes.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill number 5694 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Gravoy Development LLC, a Missouri limited liability company.
Okay. Yep.
Motion to approve Bill 5694 as amended.
And second.
A second.
Motion is made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderwoman Bannister. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Bill number 5694 is now ordinance number 4370.
Okay. First reading, Bill number 5695.
First reading Bill number 5695 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Frizella LLC, a Missouri limited liability company.
Okay. Second reading.
Second reading Bill number 5695 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Frizella Properties LLC, a Missouri limited liability company.
Okay. Motion?
Motion to approve 5694 as amended.
95.
95, I'm sorry. One off.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderman Kramer. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Bill number 5695 is now ordinance number 4371.
Okay, thank you. Bill number 5696, we will move to executive session for discussion. Item number 11, accounts against the city. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. As per our code, I was provided with a draft from our city administrator for the warrant list as presented here this evening, the amount of $310,848.53. And I have seen no issues with it. Any questions remaining for the alderman before its recommendation?
Alderwoman Saunders.
I just have the one on CDG. Does that include like their services for that the Pine and High School stop sign evaluation? Is that in there?
That would have been CBB.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so the wrong one.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Your Honor.
Yeah, too many initials on these companies.
Yeah.
Alderman Kramer.
Point of clarification. Bola, on the final page, the Wireless USA insurance claim, did we have to pay any deductible on that? Does that ring a bell?
We would have to pay our deductible on all insurance claims.
Okay.
Yes.
Which one are you talking about, Tom?
This is the Wireless USA. This is the damage to the
Page 2, bottom of
dispatch.
page
It's the
2.
final,
Oh,
almost final item.
okay.
They're $5,354.
Right, yeah, sorry. Okay.
Question, Your Honor.
Alderman Leahy.
I'm on page 3, and I'm looking at United Carnival and the Weinhardt Party Rentals. I love seeing that their bills are $3,000, $4,000, but we budgeted $65,000 for each of these.
Well,
So
yeah.
obviously, in that $65,000,
You save some money.
well, I don't think we overestimated that much, did we really?
No, that's the entire.
That's
entire
for all of
function.
them. That's just
For
the
the,
invoice that's
Brentwood
hitting
days.
that
Madden
line
Fest.
item for
For
now.
Madden Fest.
Okay, for the thing, but the
Entire
trick
event.
is do these bills stay in line with what we
They do.
anticipated
They have in
spending?
the past. They
Yeah.
will
Okay.
continue to.
All right.
Do you have a motion?
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve the warrant list that is presented this evening in $310,848.53.
Okay.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion is made by Alderman Kramer, second by Alderman Robertson to accept the warrant list as submitted. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, reports of committee and department heads. Under the mayor's report, I have two things. One, I would request the board entertain changing our September meeting from the 17th, Monday, September 17th, to the Monday before, which would be September the 10th. The reason for the change is that Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday are the dates of the Missouri Municipal League Conference, which I know the city administrator is attending. Lee, are you attending? Anybody else is welcome to attend as well. I hope to attend the meetings and supposed to do a presentation there. So I would entertain a motion to move that to the prior week, which would be, again, September the 10th.
At 7 o'clock.
It's 7 o'clock, not 6, 7.
So moved.
In second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Okay. I do have one other item, an appointment to the library board. Robin Hutterman. Halterman, thank you. I'm getting tired. It's been a long day. And to fill the position of Sherman, who is coming off the board. He's termed out in June. So if I could have approval for that appointment.
So moved.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion is made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Robertson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Just to touch base on that, if any of the aldermen would like to attend the Missouri Municipal League meeting or a conference, I would highly recommend it. They've got some good presentations there, and again, get to meet a lot of different people from around the state. So that is that 16th, 17th, and 18th of September.
I think they moved it to Tantera. It was supposed to be at.
It was supposed to be in Branson this year, but
but
because of the
tornado,
tornadoes,
it
it's
was
Lake of the
moved to
Ozarks.
What's the beginning date?
So.
Does it start on a Sunday?
It does. There,
Okay, I was
you
thinking
can
it
register on
overlapped with
Sunday.
Brentwood or
Right.
Manfest, but I wasn't.
A lot of people go down Sunday evening, register, and then you're there because it starts Monday morning. Yeah, and Brentwood Days is that, Madden Fest is that weekend too. Okay. Now, as we go forward, actually, I know we have the minutes submitted to us, but I would like to recommend to the board that we do not submit the minutes to the subcommittee meetings to the full board. If nothing else, just to say, I think we can still make reference to them, and then, the chairman can make, give maybe a quicker written report on item that was taking place at the committee meetings. That's just my suggestion, but.
I would agree with that, and since some of us don't go to the other meetings, we really don't have any way to say that we can ratify the minutes anyway.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. So is that okay with everybody? Okay. So they're here tonight for informational. Anything else from public safety?
Public safety, I'm sorry.
Anything from public safety?
We were not able to have a meeting, but we will have minutes of the meeting before. But,
Okay. All right.
I would just say this, I could not be there, and it seemed better to go ahead and put it off.
That's fine.
Sorry,
Okay.
I missed.
Public Works, anything further?
Nothing, Your Honor, I guess, other than we are scheduling our next meeting. We'll talk about the rec center.
Good. Ways and Means Committee?
Yes, Your Honor. We have been working judiciously and studiously on the budget topic beginnings and also the employee handbook, some other items. You're all welcome to come to our next meeting, which is an evening meeting, as spoken about earlier, 6:30, and I believe that's on the 11th.
Yes.
Please come and enjoy at 6:30.
Okay. City Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
City Clerk Administrator?
No report, Your Honor.
Excise Commissioner, not present, but we do have two items this evening. We have a temporary liquor license for O.B. Clark's, located 1921 South Brentwood. And I assume that's probably, is that for Brentwood Days?
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
sorry, Madden Fest? I keep
Madden
doing that.
Fest.
It'll take me a while. So if I get a motion for the temporary liquor license for O.B. Clark's.
So moved, Your Honor.
And
Second.
Motion is made by Alderman Lay, seconded by Alderman Harper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a temporary liquor license for Refined Room, 2525 South Brentwood. Do we have a, what is this for? I'm not.
This is for a grand opening party
Okay.
for the store. It's by invitation only from 5 to 9. And they will like to serve beer and wine and possibly have a food truck in the site parking lot. This is scheduled for September 21st.
Okay. Any questions? Can I have a motion, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Motion,
you.
everybody's kind of drifting off. Motion
I'll
to
second.
approve.
You notice I wasn't pushing either, so. Might be a long, we got a few more items here.
Yep.
We had a first and a second for the temporary liquor license for Refined Room at 2525 South Brentwood. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Library, anything further, Lee?
Just that we're thrilled over the fact that we won, got the vote, we got the money for the library, and I know that this summer is probably going to be more exciting than ever because you have a little more money. When does that start coming in, though?
It would be next January.
Next year. Well, can't spend it yet, but glad you got it.
But this budget's already made anyway,
Yeah.
so, okay. Municipal League, I think I already commented on that. Communications, anything further?
No report, Your Honor.
Historical Society, anything? Okay. We will have an executive session, and then possibly coming back to the full board. Do we have any unfinished business?
Yes, Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer?
I have a couple items. One is I wanted to alert the residents and maybe perhaps other board members about the topic of Brentwood Boulevard and the lack of care there too by St. Louis County. Been working with them and/or confronting them for a period of time. Thanks to the mayor for his input. We have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with Councilman Dolan and the staff at the St. Louis County Roads and Highways Department before their council meeting in Chambers tomorrow evening, and we are hopeful that we'll be able to make some progress. Second item is BOLA and/or the mayor. I have received some questions from our constituents about some potential grand opening announcement for Michael's, the date or time. Have they
Actually, sorry.
done that?
Actually did that yesterday morning. We had the ribbon cutting yesterday. Sorry, I meant to do that under my report.
Okay.
Michael's did open yesterday morning. The ribbon cutting was at about 9:45, and there were probably about 30 or 40 people there for the at 9:45, but by about 10:15, when we were trying to get out of the store, they were lined up to get in. From what I understand, they had a friend of mine went later in the afternoon, walked in the store and came out because they said there were about 75 people in line waiting to check out. So
Are they
it will
going to
be.
have an official? Was that the grand
That
opening?
was the official grand opening. Did their soft one without.
We missed
a
our
ribbon,
invitation.
so.
Whoever was.
So, well, they called me Friday and reminded me. So, yeah. But
Also, Your Honor, True Runner next door.
we don't have any official date yet, but they will. Well, I'm not going to say they will. They hope to be open before the holiday shopping season. They are building that out right now.
All right.
Alderman Saunders?
Yeah, a status on the recodification, because Mike Perry was at our meeting at June 12th, Ways and Means. No, Mike Perry with Sullivan Publications was at the meeting, and June 12th, and he said they should only have about 4 to 6 weeks and that it could be live within a week. And there were other minutes that said that February 12th they had delivered the final draft to staff. So I'm just wondering where we're at with the codification.
They're still working on it, making final touches. I will provide you more updates by email later this week when I have more to share.
Is it possible for us to get the draft or the final draft that they had delivered?
They don't have it yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, again, they're on a flat fee basis, and you know, and just some of the stuff takes a lot of time, and you know, they got to make sure they get it right, or they want to make sure they get it right. So hopefully we'll be hearing from them shortly. So, okay. Any new business? Alderman Lay?
If I may, Your Honor. The National Night Out Against Crime took place on August the 7th. We had about 350 people that attended the program at the Brentwood Swim Club. Would like to thank the Brentwood Swim Club for making the facility available for the program, and thank the residents and the businesses that donated and helped make the program a fun evening. Frank, thank you for cooking. You did good. I'm sorry. The Ward 3 meeting for the month of August is Tuesday night, the 28th of August at 7 o'clock in the council room. All are invited. And you were going to do a thing, then I will yield to you, sir.
Alderman Sanders.
We had our first Ward 1 meeting, and there was about 25 people here, so I was really excited about it. And we're going to continue to hold them the second Tuesday of the month at 6:30. So that's when our next one will be. And Mr. Harper will be joining me as soon as football season's over, but he's there for moral support. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, Alderman Lay, thank you for the privilege. But to remind everybody about Madden Fest this year, will be coming up on September the 14th and 15th. It's the regular schedule, Friday evening, and then parade and events on Saturday. So hope that everybody, here and also watching marks their calendar and is able to attend on the 14th and 15th. Any other public comments at this point?
Hi, Julie Pozo again on St. Clair. I guess I had asked about the contract with McMahon Burger. I'm curious why we didn't go through the proper hiring procedures and why we don't have a contract. That wasn't answered. I don't, if you could answer that for me.
Okay.
And also, I guess I wanted to make a comment, too, about the comment cards again. I believe I read it on the patch that Bola made a comment that maybe the comment cards would prevent rambling on. So I think, I don't think we dreamed that. Because I think she was quoted in there.
Susan Ryan, Pine Avenue. I'm not sure how to address this, but, I'm not quite PETA, but when you come off of the expressway, there are now Canadian geese walking across so that 6 lanes of highway are stopped. And God forbid I should be the person that ever hit and killed one. I don't know really what we would do about it, but it is going to be it's a potential major hazard. So anyway, thanks.
I'm working with a firm that deals with the geese problem, and as soon as I get enough information, I will be sharing it with the public.
Just don't
Works
tell me
Department.
that you're going to hurt them.
No, we are no. I am not in favor of geese roundups and stuff. Arrangement.
But a 10 gauge.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let's public
Yeah,
comments
so-
then. Okay, thanks.
Okay, anyway, thanks.
Yep.
Oh.
Oh,
Andy, who are you working with? Because I forwarded to Public Works because one of my residents.
Just on that geese problem, I would also support not doing anything violent against them. It is an issue with putting water features in that we might want to think about in the future, not putting water features in around busy intersections. I'm wondering if we could have gotten some counsel on that one, because they do, wherever there's a body of water, they will congregate. My question about and Karen Smith on Harrison. My question about my budget questions, I've not had that answered yet, and so I'm just wondering where those get directed to. I don't know if Tom Kramer, that comes to you as the head of Ways and Means.
I'll be happy to address it again, Karen.
I don't believe you ever addressed them to
I
begin
did,
with.
and I
When?
will
Can
send you that email
Would-
last year and repeatedly this year, and I copied Alderman Leahy on that. I'm happy to meet with you anytime.
get it? I've not
to go
gotten
over
it.
those questions, as opposed to me trying to write a written response to at least 20 questions. I'm happy to meet with you anytime.
That's great. I have not gotten that email. I'm sorry.
We'll get together.
So I also had signed up for to get the agenda for the redevelopment Corporation, when that meets, and it met on July 11th, is that working? If I've signed up for that, am I supposed to be getting notifications of
You
that?
should.
So I'll check to make sure that I didn't mess up how I signed up for that, because I didn't get a notification on that one. And then in regards to the manual and kind of, I not having been intimately involved with all this, I'm a little confused on the recodification versus how the manual's being written. But one of the I believe it was the Ways and Means Committee that I was at, one of the concerns that was, I think, expressed in that and how we reorganize, I think the employees need to feel comfortable with if they notice something going on that's wrong or illegal, they need to have a place to go to that they feel comfortable being able to talk about that without having, I guess, fear for reprisal or loss of job. If you listen to those police tapes that were related to the embezzlement from the previous city administrator, there were several instances where employees alluded to issues that they were well aware of that were going on here, but they didn't have a place to go. And Alderman Toohey, in response to your question about whether an audit firm like Hochschild something, I think based upon some of the things that the employees said in those police tapes, I think they probably should have been able to catch some of those things. I think we should have had some highlighted things brought forward. So I do think we should look at who we're using for that. And even though they do have a lot of knowledge about the city, I think sometimes a fresh set of eyes, even though it's going to take more time, I think it might be good. Even with the Gilmore Bell issue that Andy brought up, I mean, that was one of the problems with that accounting firm Anderson, where there were two different departments, but they were still too closely aligned, working for the same company, that they were not able to provide appropriate oversight. So I don't know that sometimes, even though it might be a little bit more expensive, I don't know if getting a fresh set of eyes to look into things wouldn't be helpful. And then in regards to the comment about speculation, that we're bringing forth a lot of speculation. Again, I think we've all been up here for many months now asking for more transparency. I know you all think you are communicating with us, but yet we back here don't think sometimes that we are receiving communication. So obviously we aren't on the same page about things, and I don't know how to resolve that. But I think, for example, this ordinance that came up tonight, 5696, if things had gone how things usually go in the city, we would have done a first and second reading on that ordinance. Maybe it does make sense to do an ordinance, but I haven't had a chance to talk to my alderman about it or ask any questions about it. So, again, I think there's things that could be changed that would help the communication for the residents. And then my last question on the Thompson-Milburn that was on the warrant list, is that going to be passed through to that TDD, the legal expenses for that? Or
Which one? Thompson-Coburn legal bills.
It's,
No, that's a different issue.
Is that related to their new lawsuit that they have filed?
They are legal counsel with respect to the Meridian, right?
Right. So is that the lawsuit that that's out there? I don't know who's suing who now, but
let me see. Meridian.
Compass is suing.
Compass is suing Meridian.
Yes.
So is that why we can't recoup these fees from them?
Well, again, we have insurance that will be involved to a certain extent, but then we also had our special counsel who we is Thompson and Coburn. No, those would be borne by us.
By us. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. One last comment.
Denise Stebbing, 24612 Porter, and one question that wasn't answered, you probably forgot it, is I had asked specifically who else might have been receiving benefits, any of our other civil servants,
right, okay.
Prosecuting
None.
attorney, city attorney,
None.
judge, okay.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I would like to comment that everybody I have heard that has made comments about the benefits from the community have said that they don't think that benefits should be extended to the aldermen and alderwomen. If you're going back in executive session, and you're going to talk about this behind closed doors again, instead of out in front and with public opinions, you need to understand that people are telling you they don't think this is right. And if you end up voting to continue these benefits, then you are going against your constituents, and you're not representing your constituents. You're representing yourself and your own pocket. So at
Okay.
least that's a perception that the public's going to get. So please keep that in mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll try to address a couple of these, and I'll address that first. I think, the board and most of us express our opinions with respect to the health benefits at the last meeting. Do I think that they were instituted appropriately? I wasn't involved with that process, but I don't think anything was done intentionally, ill will, or ever hidden. I think what our discussion, what my feelings are with respect to health insurance is, I didn't run for re-election or run to be an elected official in the city of Brentwood to get health insurance. So I'm getting rid of it regardless. And I think that was the sentiment of the board at the last meeting as well. What is being discussed is the appropriate way in order to eliminate that benefit. But with respect to McMahon Burger and the professional services agreement that was entered into last August, again, I think what people hear at a meeting, they may interpret one way. Yes, and it's in the minutes, was a question asked, why are we hiring McMahon Burger? Well, we were hiring them to give us a second opinion on an issue that the city had. We didn't say that that was the only thing that they would ever do for the city of Brentwood. The ordinance that was passed speaks for itself. It is an ordinance that says that they are going to provide a professional services agreement to handle personnel issues for the city. The city, it was done appropriately. It is the agreement that we have in place with them, and I think it stands on its own. If there was some misinterpretation, I can't help that, but that's what it was involved. As the city goes forward, we didn't hire McMahon Burger to rewrite our personnel manual. As issues came up through that process of almost over a year now, when staff made recommendations, some of the things were sent to our personnel attorneys to make sure that they complied with current laws and those kinds of things as we go forward. We didn't hire them to specifically sit down and rewrite our handbook, but we did consult them on different issues, as we've done in the past when we've updated and also created personnel manuals. So, that's what it is. I think we've talked about this for the last 3 months, and keep repeating the same things, but that's how McMahon Burger became involved with the city and have represented us on a number of different personnel issues in that period of time. So, any other comments?
Your Honor, may I address one question Denise asked?
Oh, yeah.
I have never received any medical or other benefits from the city. To my knowledge, the prosecutor has not and does not receive those benefits.
They don't, right? And neither does the judge.
The judge does.
He does?
Yes.
Oh, the judge, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Judge has health insurance?
Which is
Okay.
separate from retirement benefits.
Right.
It's a different topic.
Right.
Time to.
Okay.
Is it
I
time
didn't know
to?
that.
He
Okay.
gets dental. I think it's dental.
Just dental?
Is it dental and vision? Oh, vision.
Oh, just vision, not health?
No.
It'd be
Okay,
good for a judge to be able to see.
right. Alderman Nguyen.
It's time to adjourn.
I have a
Yeah.
quick comment.
Oh.
I just want Karen to be clear to Karen. I wasn't a pro keep the old audit firm. It was just there's some merit to it, and I definitely get replacing the auditor from time to time is a good decision because, I mean, I used to do it. I know what they do. They show up, they do last year's audit, ask the same request. It's a lot easier to do that way than actually take a new approach. So yeah, I definitely agree. There's merit to changing as well.
Okay.
And I just want to clarify that with that, I meant to say something, but that Hochschild, I listened to those police tapes, and they pull one of the documents ahead of time that has the casino credit cards on it, and they're asking for support of a clerk, and she's like, listen, go to the administrator or somebody else, because I'm not doing it. So we need to switch them for definite sure. And I may be some of the confusion with the McMahon Burger. That may be my problem. I still don't have the agreement. So I know, Bola, if you gave it to me, send it again. I do not have the signed agreement between the city and McMahon Burger. I have the opinion that they were hired to give, but that's all I have.
Well, I think, they submitted a letter and
That's what we have, that letter.
right, we'll
There's
give you
no
the letter.
we didn't sign it, engage. It's an opinion.
No, maybe we got two different things. They have an engagement letter to provide services, which spelled out some of their fees and those kinds of things, and then we adopted the ordinance in conjunction with that letter.
Right.
So
And
we
that
didn't-
has been sent, I mean, I've received it.
We didn't execute an agreement with them.
That is the agreement. That's the process.
You don't sign it when you execute?
I signed the ordinance.
Okay.
Right.
Which approves the expenditure.
Right. I mean, I never signed an agreement with with the engineering firms when we sign a contract. I signed the ordinance that approves that contract with them. I mean, that's the procedure, you know.
No. I know.
Okay. Alderman Nguyen?
We adjourn.
Yeah. If I give a motion to go into executive session.
I motion to go into executive session.
And second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Why, I don't know.
I'm going to call the meeting back to order. And if I give a motion to go out of executive session.
I'm just
So
gonna say
moved.
that we don't,
Second.
we don't.
Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Here.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Here.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yeah.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Okay, we're back in executive session. We did discuss ordinance 5669.
96.
Or 96, I'm
Bill
sorry.
number 696, yeah.
And do we have a sponsor for that bill?
I am a sponsor, Your Honor.
Your Honor. point of
Alderman
order.
Lay, yes?
I'm still recusing myself from this discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Ask them.
Anybody else wish to join Alderman Kramer, sponsor of bill number 5696?
I will join them, please, Your Honor.
Okay. And can I have a can I have a motion for the first and second readings of bill number 5696?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And first reading.
Your Honor, we have a first
I'm
and a
sorry.
second, but we need a vote.
All in favor, say aye. Or no, let's do roll call.
A roll call? Okay.
In favor of what?
First and second reading only.
Alderwoman Saunders?
In favor of, we don't know what's going on.
Tom Kramer is bringing the bill forward, and I just had a motion for the first and second reading of bill number 5696.
No, this is just the reading of it,
Right.
right? No.
Alderwoman Bannister?
No.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Okay. First reading of bill number 5696.
First reading bill number 5696 by title only, an ordinance terminating health insurance benefits for elected officials of the city of Brentwood, Missouri.
Okay. Any discussion?
I want it on the record that I don't agree that this should be done via ordinance.
Okay. And, I would just, since we didn't have a synopsis prepared, I think this is just the ability of the city to ratify through an ordinance form the fact that we are eliminating the benefit for the elected officials.
Health benefit.
Health benefits for elected officials.
I also want to clarify, though, if I vote no to this, it means that I am reinstating the benefits?
I
Just
think
means
it
that you're
just means
opposed to
she's
the-
voting no.
No on the
believe
ordinance
that's a vote
portion
to
of it.
reinstate.
Right.
What does a yes and a no vote specifically mean when voting on this ordinance?
It means, yes means you are voting by ordinance to terminate health insurance benefits immediately. A no vote means you're voting no to the ordinance. It does not, I believe, change your prior vote on the motion, but as we discussed, I have concerns about terminating by motion as opposed to ordinance.
Okay, but if I vote no, it just means I'm saying no to doing it in ordinance form, but I do not change my vote as far as
You
ending.
did not change your prior vote, no.
Okay, and the benefits in no way could be reinstated.
I can't tell you in no way.
Well-
it'll
But we go
litigious
back to the
society.
liability part of it that we talked about. Right. Okay. Second reading.
Second reading, bill number 5696 by title only, an ordinance terminating health insurance benefits for elected officials of the city of Brentwood, Missouri.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Oh, go ahead. No.
Motion to approve
that
Bill
we,
5696 as submitted, Your Honor.
And motion is made by Alderman Kramer, second by Alderman Nguyen. Roll call, please.
I request that we start with Anthony Harper.
Anthony Harper. All right.
I'm sorry, go again?
We're going to start voting with you instead of the other end of the
Way
board.
surprised.
Then I'll say yes.
Why are we doing it this way?
Because I think if it gets to the end, if they have enough votes for it to pass, I don't know. I don't know what they do.
Yes.
Procedurally, it sounds kind of weird.
Right.
That's all right.
Whatever. It's fine.
Yes. Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
No.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn.
Email gone.
Oh, ordinance. I'm sorry.
Bill number 5696 is now ordinance number 4372.
Praise the Lord.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved,
So
Your
moved,
Honor.
second.
And say, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.